Hey guys! This is part 3 of What If Naruto Became an Emperor. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 12, 5 Exodus. Ruins of Odogekure, Sound Country, 72 hours after the battle. Not even the Tsunade War had matched what would later become the Odo Iwakuma conflict in brutality and intensity. The war had engulfed all of the land of sound and parts of lightning and earth, threatening to even pour out into neighboring countries. The three shinobi villages of Kumo, Iwa, and Oto were all poised to destroy Konoha. But then, for all accounts and purposes, the Triple Alliance self-destructed. Kumo and Iwa had both lost a sizable amount of ninja, and blamed the other and Oto. Naturally, Orochimaru had denied the claim, but neither side was listening. Then all hell had broken loose. Orochimaru had found himself in the middle of a two-front war, a nightmare for any ninja, with Iwa in the west and Kumo in the east. The Snake Sage had come to a horrifying realization: there was no way out for him. He was severely outmanned, and not even his test subjects with the Cursed Seal or the revived Sound 4 could stave off stone and lightning. Even Manda, his personal snake summon, would fall in the ensuing battle, having been brought down by Kumo and Iwa's own animal summons. As for the Snake Sage himself, he would be severely weakened. Not by the loss of his sound ninja force, but due to the fact that his current body was nearly burned out, and that even if he could transfer to another body, it would do no good. 3 days after the battle had begun, a cessation of hostilities was declared by the new Tsukage, Kuratsuchi, the granddaughter of the late Inoki and an interim Reikage. Both sides had endured massive losses, and both sides had come to the conclusion that it was all Orochimaru's fault. A shaky peace treaty was signed, and Kumo and Iwa left the field of battle, leaving Oto and the land of sound a virtual wasteland. It was then that once Kumo and Iwa were back within their borders, the true mastermind of the Odo Iwa-Kumo conflict had revealed itself. In the ruins of Odogekure no Sato, Orochimaru knew that he was dying. But the last thing he expected was the Kyuubi brat making the save for Konoha. Too bad he forgot that said Kyuubi brat had a bone to pick with him regarding the murder of Hiruzen Sarutobi. Orochimaru had attacked Naruto, who disarmed him and used both his own katana and Orochimaru's signature weapon, Kusanagi, to lop off both of Orochimaru's arms before crisscrossing the blades in a scissor pattern on Orochimaru's neck. Flashback: ruins of Odogekure, 30 minutes earlier. A weakened Orochimaru was on his knees, glaring at the son of Minato Namikaze, who held both Kusanagi and his own sword at his neck. The Snake Sage knew that he would never get the chance to burn down Konoha. He would never see the Hokage monument crumble and fall. He was finished. Why? Orochimaru demanded, defiant in his final moments. Why defend a place which has shunned you? Forsaken you? Naruto smiled evilly. Oh, don't worry, you old snake. I'm not doing this for Konoha. But I can't let you burn the place down. The honor of destroying Konoha is mine and mine alone. Then why kill me? We can destroy Konoha together. Spare my life, and I will be in your service. Naruto shook his head. So you can try and take my body like you tried to do with the Uchiha? No thanks. I can do without backstabbers. I dealt with plenty of those during the Unification Wars. No, you are too much of a threat, Orochimaru. Besides, you have to answer for your own slights against me. You murdered the closest thing I had for a father figure in the Tsunode invasion. Your former sensei, the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Time to answer for your crimes. You'd kill me over that old fool? You should be thanking me. If it wasn't for my interest in Sasuke, you would still be stuck in that damned village. You would not have been forced to leave in order to become stronger. You are what you are now because of me. I made you. Spare me your explanations. Your time is up, Orochimaru. Naruto replied as his grip tightened on the swords. You can go to hell, Namikaze. After you. With a move of his arms, Naruto Namikaze decapitated Orochimaru, and thus avenged the death of his mentor. End flashback: Naruto Namikaze watched as the massive form of Katami's Nine Tails unleashed her foxfire stream upon the destroyed village, burning it to ashes. Gaara soon a ninja would conduct the mop-up operations, using the information Naruto had received from Kabuto in regards to Orochimaru's hidden labs, right before ending his life as well. His katana was sheathed, while he held Kusanagi in his other hand. A specialized seal was on the handle, suppressing its power. Naruto will take Orochimaru's sword home as a trophy of war. As Otogekyo no Sato was engulfed in a sea of flames, Kitami reappeared, having reverted back to her human form. "It's done, Kit," she said. "Otogekyo is no more." Naruto nodded. Konoha was safe, for the time being. Now, it was up to Tsunade and the Fire Lord. He had 5 ships on standby in Water Country, ready to move the clan heads and their families to the west. Now, it was time to return home. Konohagakure no Sato, 1 week after Otogekyo's destruction. Konoha was breathing a sigh of relief. Orochimaru was dead, his sound ninja decimated, and the land of sound was destroyed. The civilians, full of themselves as always, claimed victory, saying that it was the will of fire which drove Orochimaru's alliance to self-destruct, and that they didn't need the demon emperor and his whore to save their skins. Oh, the lies we tell to make ourselves feel better. It was after the celebrations had concluded that Tsunade had summoned the council and dropped the bomb. She was resigning her position as Hokage. "In these past several weeks, I have come to the realization that this village, once founded by my grandfather, has lost the will of fire. We have become complacent and arrogant in our abilities and in our dealing with people. It is because of this. I am stepping down as Godame Hokage. I will remain in Konoha until the end of the month. Then I will travel west to offer penance to the son of the Yellow Flash, and hope that he forgives this foolish old woman." In the days following Tsunade's resignation, things got even more hectic. Mostly regarding the Emperor of the West and his wife. The main branch of the Hyuga clan had voted unanimously to declare Hinata's marriage to Naruto invalid and issued an order for her to return to Konoha immediately, lest she would end up suffering the wrath of the Hyuga clan. The order was ignored. For Naruto, the civilian clan found out that Naruto had bank accounts in both Tea and Spring countries. They had sent envoys there, with orders to the banks demanding that they hand over the Namikaze family's wealth so it can liquidate it and use to further Konoha's selfish desires. Both were sent back empty-handed. 5 days after Tsunade had resigned her post from Konoha, she had received word from a smaller slug summon that the Fire Lord was less than a mile off from Konoha with his guardian ninja and a battalion of his private army. Perfect timing, Tsunade thought as the small slug disappeared, just as a squad of Konoha Route A and BU led by Sai approached her while she was inside the ninja-only bar and grill, enjoying a drink. "Lady Tsunade, your presence is requested inside the council chambers by the Rokudame-elect," Sai said. "Can't this wait until after I'm finished?" the former Hokage asked, doing a good job of acting annoyed. "I'm sorry, Lady Tsunade, but the Rokudame-elect has ordered a mandatory meeting of all clan heads, their successors, and special jounin," the ink user replied. "Please come with us." Sighing, Tsunade downed the last of her sake and headed for the Hokage Tower with her escort. Konoha Council Chambers. Minutes later, sure enough, the Konoha Council Chamber was packed with nothing but shinobi, from the clan heads to the special jounin when Tsunade entered the room. Tsunade took notice of the Route A and BU, and the Hyuga main branch ninja that stood guard inside the room. Seated in the Hokage's chair, in the robes of state and the Hokage's hat, was Danzu Shimura. The 2 council elders were seated on either side of the Warhawk-turned-Rokudame. Only this time, Hayashi Hyuga sat next to Koharu while Asana Haruno sat next to Hamura. Tsunade also took notice of Sakura Haruno standing among the ANBU and Hyuga ninja. "Ah, Lady Tsunade," Danzu greeted smoothly. "So nice of you to join us." "All right, I'm here." "What do you want, Lord Hokage?" Tsunade demanded, showing Danzu the same disrespect he had shown her during her tenure as the Godame. "You could at least congratulate me on my ascension to the seat of Hokage," Danzu replied. "Aside from taking oaths of loyalty, which the clans have not taken yet, I am here to inform you, Tsunade Senju, that your right of free passage is hereby revoked." Tsunade cocked an eyebrow. "Excuse me? Last time I checked, Shimura, my right of free passage was given to me and Jiraiya once we became sages." "True," Danzu said. "But you're needed here in Konoha. As for Jiraiya, I have tracked him down to Spring Country. If he knows what is good for him, then he will not refuse my summons to return. The Spring Daimyo will not interfere with Konoha business, even thought she did grant him asylum." Tsunade snorted. "Needed? You mean you want me here to keep an eye on me? Danzu shrugged his shoulders. Call it what you like. You may be a sage, but you are still a shinobi of the leaf. I cannot, no, I will not let you go west to that brat and his whore of a wife. Tsunade smirked. Still sore over the fact that same brat mopped the floor with you and your precious root ANBU? Danzu ignored the insult. Furthermore, I am reversing your judgment in regards to Sakura Haruno. I felt that it was unjust. Effective immediately, she is reinstated as a shinobi in the Konoha shinobi force with the rank of Jounin. Furthermore, as your Rokudame, you are hereby ordered to take Haruno back as your apprentice and to terminate your apprenticeship to Ino Yamanaka. As Inochi and Ino raised their voices in protest, Tsunade looked at the smirking Sakura and the regal Asana. And how much did Asana bribe you to make this decision? Tsunade asked. That is none of your concern, Asana replied. You will do as the Rokudame commands and take back my daughter as your apprentice. Fuck no, was Tsunade's reply. Before Danzu could reply to Tsunade's remark, the doors to the council chambers opened and 5 more Root and BU marched in with a bound Maki Asahina. Deciding to place Tsunade on hold, Danzu turned to the Imperial Ninja/Pekora merchant. Captain Asahina, do you know why you are here? Despite being bound, Maki showed no fear. Enlighten me, you old crow. Maki Asahina, you have been brought before the Konoha Council to answer for the crimes of murdering 3 Hyuga main branch ninja. Hayashi replied. My ninja. Second, the Pekora merchant house will be ordered to pay reparations to the Hyuga clan and the Konoha Mercantile Guild. Your ninja attacked me, Maki replied. It was self-defense. The Godame ruled it as such. And to quote your former Hokage, fuck no. And that is another thing that I am overturning, Danzu replied. You have killed Konoha ninja from a respected and honorable clan, which carries an automatic death sentence. Do you have anything to say before your sentence is carried out? Maki didn't say anything. Instead, she reacted. While they were talking, Maki had freed her bonds. She elbowed the root to her left in the face, driving the cartilage into her brain, killing her instantly. The second root ANBU to her left drew her katana, but Maki quickly disarmed her, and was armed with her own katana, the second root ANBU lying on the floor in a pool of her own blood, her throat slashed. In an instant, 5 Hyuga main branch ninja and 5 root ANBU surrounded the young kunoichi. The other root in the room had their weapons drawn, keeping the other shinobi at bay. You have no idea who you are fucking with, Maki replied. I can just as easily carve through the 10 of you without blinking an eye. Enough of this! Kill her! Hayashi shouted. 50 seconds later, the 5 Hyuga ninja and the 5 root ANBU were all slain. Maki was covered in blood spatter, but was still alive. Her flak vest had taken some damage, but other than that, she was unharmed. Suffice to say, the shinobi clan heads and their children were impressed with her skill. You have sealed your fate, Hayashi shouted. You will not leave this room alive! Looks like self-defense to me, the Fire Lord said from the doorway. Just in time. Tsunade thought as the Fire Lord entered the room, followed by his guardian ninja and a squad of heavily armed ninja from his personal military force. Lord Demio. This woman has killed members of my clan. I demand justice. Hayashi demanded as several root ANBU cleaned up the bodies of the fallen ninja. The Fire Lord turned to Maki. You are free to go, Captain Asahina, he said. Your actions were deemed justifiable in my eyes. Maki bowed and departed from the room, while Hayashi sputtered out curses to the smirking Asahina. Once she was gone, the Fire Lord turned to Danzu. Why is it every time you idiots make me so angry with your rampant stupidity I have to personally intervene? Did you forget that the Toad Sage answers directly to me, and not to the Hokage? Or did you forget that I personally signed the decision in regards to the Haruno girl? Or that this village is still a shinobi village because of my grace? He turned to Tsunade. Tsunade Senju, I am hereby restoring your right of free passage, as well as relieving you of your responsibilities as a shinobi of Konoha no Sato. He then turned to the shinobi present. As a matter of fact, I am extending this to all of you. For the next 14 days, any shinobi from the lowest of genin to the elite jounin is free to leave Konoha no Sato. You will not be labeled as missing ninja nor placed inside the bingo book. Any attempts to restrain any ninja wanting to leave by genjutsu, force, blackmail, bribery or seals, he threatened, directing the last shot at Hayashi, will result in an automatic death sentence to the offending party, regardless of their status in this village. In an instant, Asano was on her feet. You can't do that, she objected. I just did, the Fire Lord replied. And to make sure that my orders are carried out, I am leaving a battalion of my most loyal soldiers here to make sure that no one interferes for the next 2 weeks. Cross me, Shimura, and you will have the honor of being the Hokage with the shortest term in the history of the village. That said, the Fire Lord stalked out of the room, his guardian ninja following close behind. As soon as they were gone, Tsunade turned to the gathered ninja. In 6 days, I will be leaving Konoha for good. If you wish to come with me, then you are free to do so. With that said, the slug sage departed from the room. Meanwhile, the gathered shinobi were talking amongst themselves. They were seriously giving the idea consideration. Hayashi saw that his fellow clan heads were clearly considering the Fire Lord's decree, and tried to make the ninja see reason. You can't leave. We are Konoha shinobi. We must stick together and show a unified front. Your ancestors were part of this village ever since it was founded. The Leaf has put a major investment in your training and that of your children. Maybe instead of worrying about that drunk of a sage, you should start worrying about your future, and that of your own children. Chuza, Inochi, Shikaku, Tsum, Shibi, Asuma and Kakashi all exchanged glances. Then Inochi rose from his seat and stepped towards Danzu and the others. For a moment, Hayashi thought that his words had gotten through to them and Inochi would be the first to swear loyalty to the Rokudaime. Until Inochi unfastened his hitite and dropped it to the floor, where it made a sharp clink as the metal struck the floor. I am thinking for my future, and that of my family. And it's not in this village, Inochi replied before walking out of the room. Soon, Ino did the same thing, unfastening her hitite and dropping it to the floor alongside her father's. Then Chuza, and Chuji, and Shikaka, and Shikamaru, and Shibi, and Shino. Wait a second. You can't do this. Asana objected as the procession passed the Hokage and his advisors, the sharp sound of hitayatesh landing on one another making the Rokudaime even more angrier by the second. Clink. Tsum has dropped her hitite into the growing pile. You are all Konoha shinobi. Your loyalty is to the Hokage. Sakura shouted. Clink. Kiba tossed his to the ground. Clink. Asuma and Kurinai's hitayatesh landed on the pile at the same time. Clink. Anko flipped off the Hokage and his advisors before walking out, having discarded her hitite. You are jeopardizing your future as ninja. Kohara shouted. Clink. Mado Gai's hitite joined the pile. Clink. Tenten and Rock Lee's hitayatesh followed suit. Sasuke? Sakura shouted. Clink. Sasuke dropped his hitite at Sakura's feet. I'm done with this town, he replied as Kakashi dropped his own hitite and followed his rival's team. With this act of defiance, unknown to Konoha, it was the beginning of the end for the Leaf, with the exception of the Hyuga main branch clan, the Hyuga cadet branch clan, led by Niji Hyuga, the main clans of Konoha, the Aburame, Yamanaka, Akamichi, Nara, Inuzuka and Sarutobi, as well as a sizable number of Jounin and Chunin had decided that it was best to leave Konoha rather than serve under a power-mad and corrupt government. Since Tsunade was heading for the Western Empire, those that were leaving had decided to throw in their lot with the former Hokage and head west. Niji, however, had an ulterior motive in leaving Konoha. The reason being was that he was romantically involved with Tenten. And since he was part of the cadet branch, any child born from their union would be subjected to the caged bird seal, something that Hanabi had reminded him plenty of times. Deciding that a new life out west was more better than a lifetime of servitude and humiliation, the entire cadet branch had turned in their hitayatesh as well, crippling the power of the main branch. The clan heads prepared for the move. Among them, Shikaku and Shikamaru had slaughtered their deer and preserved its meat for the travel to the west, Chuza and Shuji helping. Ino and her parents had sold the Yamanaka flower shop to one of the civilians who was a loyal customer, but decided to stay behind in Konoha. When the Konoha Mercantile Guild refused to sell them supplies, it was the Pekora merchant house that made the save by offering supplies at half the normal cost. Even Ibiki Marino, Konoha's resident torture expert, and his younger brother, had decided to put in their lot with Tsunade. Since Konoha's numbers were still small and that there were no genin at the academy this year, having about half of Konoha's experienced ninja leaving the village was a serious blow. Before she resigned, Tsunade had pilfered the files of all of the clans and high-ranking Chunin and Jounin, as well as raiding the village's treasury, removing the Senju family fortunes, as well as those of the Uchiha. The clan heads had already taken their cash out of the city's banks and were using their combined resources for supplies for the upcoming trip. Tsunade even went as far as to retrieve the ashes of the first 4 Hokages, Hashirama and Tobirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Minato Namikaze, as well as the ashes of Dan, Nawaki Senju and Kushina Namikaze from the Konoha graveyard, and sealed them in several scrolls. The daimyo's decree was enforced with vigor. When a Hyuga main branch ninja tried to stop Niji from resigning, he was immediately killed on the spot. All in all, 50 ninja and villagers were executed for violating the daimyo's law, and over 200 Konoha ninja and their families had decided to leave. Konoha, day of the Exodus morning came over Konohagakure. Tsunade looked at the gathered crowd before her. With the exception of the Hyuga main branch clan, the Hyuga cadet branch were present, as were all of the other clans and over 200 Chunin and Jounin. Watching nearby were Asana and Sakura Haruno, the 2 elder council members Koharu Yutane and Hanura Mitokado, Hayashi Hyuga and his daughter, Danzu Shimura, and a sizable amount of Root Anbu and Hyuga main branch ninja. The Rokudame and his entourage did not look very happy, as the ninja leaving were the most experienced and the most promising in the shinobi world. Shizen stood at her mentor's side, Taunton in her arms. "Everyone's ready, Tsunade," she said. Tsunade nodded. "So many. There are so many of them." "No argument there," said a voice she hasn't heard in over 8 years. Shizen and Tsunade turned to the source of the voice. Jiraiya stood by the slug sage, having appeared in a poof of smoke. Despite everything that has happened, she was happy to see the old perv. "If the situation wasn't as serious, this could be a great scene from my latest novel," the old man said. He then took a serious expression. "I know everything, Tsunade. I went to the west to try and convince the kid to defend Konoha, but after what I learned convinced me otherwise." He looked at the Rokudame and his lackeys. "This village was our home. But after Minato had died, it had lost the will of fire." "So true," Tsunade replied. "Grandpa and Uncle Tobirama would be rolling over in their graves if they could see how this village has ended up. Konoha is finished. So what's the plan?" "We head south, towards Wave. Naruto has several ships standing by to take us to the west." Jiraiya looked at the gathered ninja that were leaving alongside the slug sage. "Are all the people here ninja?" Tsunade nodded. "And their families." A small number of civilians had left for the fire capital and the surrounding towns. "We got all the clans, save for the Hyuga main branch, and about 200 Chunin and Jounin. Even Enko and Ibiki wanted out." Jiraiya also took notice of Sasuke Uchiha, standing with Shikamaru and Shuji, chatting. "I'm surprised to see that the Uchiha is coming." "Me too. But I can't complain. But enough talking. Let's get this show on the road." With that, what was soon to be known as the Konoha Exodus has begun. Imperial Complex, House of Sovereigns, 3 days later. A meeting of the Imperial Council. Operation Susanu's Wrath is a success. Naruto reported. Oto has been destroyed, and Orochimaru has been slain. "And the refugees from Konoha?" Kokoro Yamada asked. "I have received word that they are on their way to the coast," Naruto replied. "They are being led by Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju." "Senju, now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time," Kokoro said. "A very long time. You know about the Senju clan?" Hinata asked. "In a way," the older woman replied. "On my father's side, I am a direct descendant of the Senju." "Care to explain?" Naruto asked. "My clan ancestor and co-founder was Toka Senju, a master genjutsu specialist who was a close associate of one of the co-founders of Konoha, Hashirama Senju," Kokoro explained. "When Konoha was founded by Hiroshima and Madara Uchiha, Toka had met and fallen in love with a ninja from the west. His name was Hiro Yamada, the founder of my clan. Back then, the west was relatively peaceful, and not locked in the years of civil war. So Hiro's specialty was that he was an expert healer, right?" Hinata asked. "Correct, Lady Hinata," the Yamada clan head replied, pride in her voice. "You can say that he was the forerunner of the medic ninja. In fact, he was the creator of several medical ninjutsu, including the mystic palm jutsu. However, Hiro was called back to the west when the wars had intensified. Hashirama allowed Toka to leave with him. By the time Tobirama Senju ascended the position of Hokage, all contact was lost. To tell you the truth, Chief, I am very surprised to hear that a Senju from the east is still alive, Since you claim ancestry from the Senju, then you would have no problem in backing that claim up, Naruto said, interested that he had a distant relative sitting on the council. Kokoro nodded. I can send you copies of my family tree, if you are interested. Since Naruto had also claimed ancestry from the Senju clan through his grandmother, Haruka connected the dots. Chief, you do realize that Yamada is a distant relative? Naruto nodded. Yeah. Ironic that I have family in the West. But we can settle that later. Right now, we have to prepare for 300 new arrivals. North Kimin will be a good place for the arrivals. Located within the imperial capital, North Kimin was a wooded district that used to belong to the most powerful clans supporting Rokenbungi Oda. When Oda was killed, those supporting the fallen warlord had fled with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Naruto had then seized control of their assets, had them liquidated, and used them to finance his war. When they returned with their own personal army to take back Kimin City a year later, Naruto had a surprise for them. He had just learned the Hiraishin. Combined with 2 shadow clones, the clans and their armies were wiped off the map. Now, North Kimin was empty. There was plenty of room in Kimin City, but Naruto chose North Kimin because it was the one place where he can keep an eye on the Konoha refugees. The clans got their own compounds, while the Jounin and Chunin he would have set up in 3 dorm-like buildings. When will the Konoha refugees arrive? Ryuji Shinzen asked. In 4 days, Naruto replied. Granny Tsunade has their dossiers with her, so Hinata and I will be busy with assigning them with duties similar to that of what they used to do in Konoha. And what about Konoha? Sunsher asked. If they do take up arms against you, then what? Easy. We'll let Iwa and Kumo know that it was Konoha's very own Root Anbu that conducted Susanu's wrath. Naruto replied, grinning. We'll frame Konoha and their Rokudaime for the attack and let Danzu deal with the headache. En route to the unified West. The exodus had taken 2 days' march from Konoha to the coast of Fire Country. It was made possible for the fact that the ninja had carried their loved ones as they hopped through the trees. Once they reached the coast, they were greeted with the sight of 5 supply ships, ready to carry them to a new world. Tsunade had assigned the clans each to 1 ship, along with a sizable number of Chunin and Jounin under their watch. Both generations of the Yamanaka, Akamichi, and Nara had been assigned to the first boat. Asuma and Kurenai were on the second boat. The Hyuga Cadet Branch clan, led by Niji Hyuga, the Inuzuka, Tenten, Rock Lee, Kakashi Hatake, and Mado Gai boarded the third. The Aburame clan, along with Sasuke Uchiha, got on board the fourth, and Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizen took the last boat out. With Konoha behind them, the clan heads decided to come clean about the circumstances behind Naruto's banishment. Shikamaru had told Ino and Shuji, who in turn confronted their parents about it. In the hold below deck, the 3 clan heads confirmed Shikamaru's claims, while the Jounin and Chunin listened on in shock. Inochi slowly nodded, as Choza's expression was grim. Yes, Ino. Much to our shame, we agreed to the banishment in exchange for your lives. We had originally planned on banishing the Uchiha. Shikaka seconded. But Danzu approached all of us and issued the ultimatum. In exchange for your safety, we banished an innocent ninja for doing his duty. But is what Shikamaru said true? About Naruto being the son of Minato Namikaze? Chuji asked. It is, son, Choza replied. Shikaku, Inochi, and myself, we were all friends with Minato. We came up together in the Shinobi Academy. When he married Kushina, we were all there. And when Naruto was born, oh, Minato was so overjoyed. But that was short-lived when Madara used the Nine Tails to attack Konoha. So Uzumaki is not the Nine Tails reborn? A Chunin asked. No, Shikaku replied. He is the son of the Yondaime Hokage, and the former container of the Nine Tails. The tailed beasts are not demons as the civilians called them, but rather beasts that are more attuned to nature and the elements. And how do you know this? Yoshino demanded. I read when I'm not herding deer, her husband replied. The Konoha library had plenty of books detailing the 6 Paths Sage and the Jinchuriki. On the ship with the Hyuga and the Inuzuka. Team Guy, along with Kakashi, has just finished listening to Tsume's confession in regards to Naruto's banishment. They were not very happy. Especially Kiba and Hana. Not only were your lives threatened, Tsume continued, but those from other genin teams that showed potential. Guy's team, Niji Hyuga. Hana looked sick. Her 3 dogs were also upset. We screwed Naruto over big time. She lamented. You wasn't the one who threatened to kill him the next time he appeared, Kiba said. He was justified in beating us down the way he did. Just think, the dead last the Emperor of the West, and his wife who was written off as worthless by her own family, the Empress consort. Tenten said. The same guy that unified the West and rallied the remaining Jinchuriki under his banner, not to mention both he and Hinata had fought and destroyed the Akatsuki. Naruto could have just as easily turned his armies upon Konoha once he became the emperor, Niji said, lost in his thoughts. But instead, he freed himself of his past. Hinata could have killed me, Hanabi or Hayashi, and would have been justified in her actions. His fingers gently rubbed over the caged bird's seal. There is no such thing as fate. There is only choice. He told me that in T-Country. He was right. Kakashi just simply listened on in silence as he tied a headband over his Sharingan, silently vowing that he would make it up to Naruto, no matter what it takes. On the ship with the Aburame and the Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha was currently blowing chunks overboard. Shibi had just told the others about the true reasons behind Naruto's banishment. Almost immediately, the last Uchiha felt sick to his stomach, which is why he was currently vomiting over the ship, while the ship's crew looked on in amusement. Almost immediately, Shibi emerged above deck and saw the queasy Uchiha. On the ship containing the Yamanaka, Inochi Yamanaka, as well as Chusa Akamichi, had witnessed Sasuke losing his lunch. A silent exchange between the two clan heads ensued, followed by a simple nod of the head from the master bug user. Inochi's body went limp as he performed the mind transfer technique, Chusa catching Inochi and setting him down gently on the deck. Seconds later, the Yamanaka clan head had possessed his Aburame counterpart. I take it you heard, Inochi/Shibi said as Sasuke wiped his mouth. I don't feel so hot, Sasuke moaned. Is it because of your actions which led to the banishment of Uzumaki? Or the fact that the clan heads were forced to choose a hero over you in exchange for the safety of their children? Or the fact that your former teammate is the son of the Yellow Flash? With the exception of the last one, since I was present in the chambers that day, the last Uchiha replied. But why? You could have rose up against Danzu and the others. That would have ended in a civil war. And with the Hyuga clan backing them up, Konoha would have been destroyed, its shinobi forces depleted, and our children kidnapped and taken into root. At least now I can understand why the other clan heads hate me, Sasuke admitted. But I am curious. Why did you decide to leave Konoha and come with us? Shibi/Inochi asked. Redemption, mostly. That and I would rather fight Gaara and Orochimaru at the same time before I marry Sakura, Sasuke admitted. That woman is bat's hit insane. Her mom, too. I always thought that Hayashi would be jumping with joy when he found out that Hinata was the Empress of the West. Kinda hard when the one person you thought was weak effectively ends your shinobi career, Shibi/Inochi said. Do you really believe that redemption can be earned instead or bought? I destroyed a friendship because of my vengeance and caused a loyal ninja to be banished. Naruto will never forgive me for this betrayal. You admitting that you screwed up, that's taking the first step, Shibi/Inochi admitted. But Naruto was never known to hold grudges. People change, Yamanaka. Especially when you don't see them for 8 years. The Uchiha replied before heading back down deck. So true, Shibi/Inochi said as Yamanaka broke the mind transfer, giving Shibi control back of his body. The scene played out as well on the remaining 2 boats, Asuma and Kurenai telling the assembled Jounin and Chunin about what they had learned from Tsunade while they were making the trek to the coast, while Tsunade and Jiraiya did the same on their boat. Reactions were varied, but everyone thought the same thing. Leaving Konoha was the best decision they had ever made, lest they would found themselves in a virtual police state under Danzu. But given the fact that they were heading for the Western Empire which was ruled by a banished ninja, it was a risk that they had to take. Back in Konoha, a war council was meeting inside the half-deserted Hyuga compound. The 2 weeks had passed without any further incident. Following the passing of that deadline, Danzu had Konoha placed under martial law. Root Anbu and Hyuga ninja patrolled the streets in a show of strength. It was a new era for Konoha, as Danzu had envisioned. Once Konoha had regained its strength, all it had to do was wait until the fire daimyo had passed on. Then he could declare war on the unified West. Hayashi was going through the final numbers of the ninja that had left Konoha. All of the clans, as well as the traitors in my clan, and approximately 175 Jounin and 160 Chunin had defected from Konoha. On top of that, that damn drunk cleaned out the treasury and the library of all jutsu and techniques. Over 300 of our most experienced ninja, gone! Asano Haruno shouted. And we just let them walk out of the village. Furthermore, we lost Sasuke Uchiha. Despite the promise of power and wealth, he left along with that drunk of a sage and that perverted hermit. Hayashi looked grim. Even more so, that damned emperor can remove the caged bird seal from Niji and the other branch members. He did it for Hinata, and he can just as easily remove it for the cadet branch in order to cement their loyalty. That damned brat is a threat. He must be dealt with, no matter what the cost. Hayashi calm, Danzu replied. I have already taken steps in dealing with the situation. We will simply bring in some fresh blood, clans who are loyal to the leaf. The wise will cultivate our favor, and those who challenge our power will not be around to argue. Second, we will open dialogue with IWA. I think they will be very interested in discovering that the Emperor is the son of Minato Namikaze. About 5 miles out of Konoha, a squad of the Imperial Defense Forces Demolition and Explosives Division has just returned from a covert mission inside Konoha. The 9-man team was disguised as Root A and BU, and had performed their duty with no fuss from the real Root A and BU that were patrolling the streets alongside the Hyuga ninja. The commanding officer of this special assignment, ordered by the Emperor himself, was Maki Asahina. This was her last assignment before she would head for Spring Country, where the Empire has just recently opened up an Imperial consulate in the Spring capital. Clad in her ninja uniform with the crimson vest, Maki watched the unsuspecting village with a pair of binoculars, just as the 9 ninja appeared in a poof of smoke. Mission accomplished, Captain Asahina. The senior ninja, a man by the name of Sho, reported. He then produced a small remote detonator and handed it to her. Maki accepted the detonator and flipped the safety off. I always wanted to go out with a bang, she mused as she pressed the button. At the same time, back in Konoha. What about the Empire's allies in Suna, Wave and Spring? Kohara asked. We will move against Wave first, Danzu replied. We'll use several squads of ninja, cross the bridge and annex the island. The people have no ninja village, and after we make an example out of several of them, they will not resist. I will transform Wave into a forward operations base and seize the Imperial consulate located there. Then I will move against Spring. Anyone who is an ally to that damned Emperor and his whore of a wife is an enemy of the Leaf. But in the meantime, we must tread carefully and rebuild Konoha's forces. Hayashi pointed out. I agree, Danzu replied. In the meantime, we will denounce the Kyubi brat and his whore as traitors to the Leaf. Kaboom! 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 Outside of Konoha, Maki and the Imperial Ninja watched with satisfied grins as the Hokage monument, containing the faces of Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Minato Namikaze and Tsunade Senju, detonated from the demolition charges, basically several satchels full of exploding tags wired to remote blasting caps from their hiding places inside the mountain, destroying the massive faces, and sending chunks of rocky debris to the village below. The falling debris had caused massive damage to the Hokage Tower, the building soon collapsing onto itself. Aside from the monument, the Demolition team had also planted charges inside the former clan homes of the Nara, Yamanaka, Aburame, Inuzuka, Sarutobi, and the Namikaze estate also went up in a series of explosions. Not even the Uchiha district was spared, as the entire district was also destroyed. All in all, 0 body count, maximum property damage. As chaos ensued inside Konoha, Maki and the others headed south for Wave. As Danzu and the War Council rushed outside, they were greeted with an unnerving sight. The faces of the first 5 Hokages that were carved into the mountain had fallen from the mountainside, demolishing the forests beneath the massive mountain, as well as the Hokage Tower, which was crushed under the debris. Danzu was furious. He knew that Naruto was the one responsible. Almost immediately, Danzu had ordered the invasion of Wave to take place once the fires were put out. However, by the time Danzu had ordered the invasion of Wave Country, they had found that the Great Naruto Bridge was also demolished, effectively blocking access to Wave. Disappointed, the Root ANBU and Hyuga Ninja returned back to Konoha. Kimen City, the imperial capital. It was mid-morning when the 5 ships arrived at the imperial capital. Tsunade and Jiraiya made out the former wreckage of Kumo, along with the Nibi Jinchuriki and the Demon of the Mist standing at the entrance of the town. Along with them were Konan and Yahiko. Once the boats were secured, the refugees formed Konoha began to disembark. Tsunade and Jiraiya told the others to remain behind as she approached the four ninja. Lady Tsunade. Lord Jiraiya. Welcome to Kimen City. They greeted. The Emperor and Empress sent the four of you to greet us? Tsunade asked. Yeah, Yahiko replied. Consider us your personal welcome wagon. The chief has told us to inform you, Jiraiya, the clan heads and chosen successors to meet with both him and Lady Hinata at the Imperial Palace for a quick meeting. Everyone else will head for North Kimen and settle in. Miyana will take you to see the chief. Konan and Yujito will lead the others to North Kimen. Preparations have already been made for the clans. A continued. All clan compounds are identified by their clan insignias. The Chunin and Jounin will be set up in 3 dorms until they can find their own place. Tsunade nodded. She turned around and faced the refugees and relayed the order. Soon, Asuma Sarutobi stepped forward, followed by the clan head and their successors of the Akamichi, Aburame, Inuzuka, Hyuga. In this case, the cadet branch had voted Niji as clan head, with Tenten tagging along, Nara, and Yamanaka. Follow me, he said as he and Yahiko led the clan heads, their successors and the 2 sages to the Imperial Palace, while Yujito and Konan took the remaining refugees to North Kimen. Imperial Complex, House of Sovereigns. The main feeling that the Konoha clan heads were feeling was mostly apprehension. Here they were, strangers in a strange land, summoned for a quick meeting with the Emperor, the son of Minato Namikaze, as well as his wife. The same person who was once known as the knuckle-headed ninja of Konoha with a penchant of making the impossible possible was the most powerful man in the West. Of course they had a right to be scared. Fortunately, Shikamaru had set things in perspective, that Naruto was not looking for vengeance on Konoha, despite the fact that they deserved it. If Konoha decided to bring war onto his doorstep, which is a possibility, since Danzu was now in charge, then Naruto would have no problem in destroying the leaf once and for all. I had given the clan heads a quick history about Naruto and the Western Empire. It was true that Naruto had rescued both him and Bee from being killed, as well as rescuing the other Jinchuriki, who had made their home throughout the empire. It was also true that the Ninetales was a vixen and the chief prime minister of the empire. And it was also true that it was Naruto who had eliminated Orochimaru and destroyed the alliance between Oto, Kumo, and Iwa. And Yahiko led the Konoha ninja inside the House of Sovereigns, stopping only when they reached the doors to the throne room. The Emperor and Empress consort are inside. Try not to piss them off. They're not as forgiving. Inside the throne room, Naruto and Hinata Namikaze sat on their thrones, Naruto dressed in his white shirt, black vest, pants and boots, while Hinata was in her ninja uniform, hair tied behind her in a ponytail. Kitami stood beside Naruto's throne, dressed in one of her elegant kimonos. The doors to the throne room opened, and Tsunade entered the throne room, followed by Jiraiya and the clan heads and chosen successors. It was already known that Naruto and Hinata were the most powerful couple in the West, but to the clan heads and their children, it was unnerving, to say the least. 8 years was a long time, and in those 8 years, Naruto had matured. He was still unpredictable at times, but proved to be a capable and effective ruler. Hinata looked regal, despite being dressed in her ninja uniform. If she was surprised to see Niji and Tenten representing the Hyuga clan, she did not show it. Tsunade went down on one knee, followed by Jiraiya. Soon, the other clan heads and their successors followed suit. Rise, Kitami ordered. Once they did, Naruto began to speak. Let's get one thing straight. I already know why you did what you did, as it was Shikamaru who had told me in the aftermath of the Tsunade War. But that doesn't mean that you're off the hook. As you can already tell, my mistrust of the leaf runs deep. If you are looking for redemption, it's not given here. It is earned. You, as well as all of the ninja who had came here from Konohagakure, are on probation for 1 year. Prove your worth to the unified West, to my wife and to me, and I will grant you clan status and citizenship. He turned to Niji. Niji Hyuga, for you, I will sweeten the deal. The same rules still apply, but if you and the cadet branch show your loyalty to the unified West, I will make you clan head, and I will also remove the caged bird seal from your head. Then he turned back to the others. If you have any problems or questions, our door is open. But I will say this once, so pay attention. If you try and screw me or Hinata over, if I hear one whiff of treachery from any one of you, you will be a head shorter. Are we clear? The assembled ninja nodded. Glad we understand one another. The rules in this town are just about the same as they were in Konoha. Don't steal anything, treat the people with respect, and everything will be fine. Jiraiya, Tsunade, remain behind. We have much to discuss. The rest of you are dismissed. Settle in and get your bearings around town. I will have your assignments for you in a couple of days. The clan heads bowed and walked out of the room. All except Asuma. Something on your mind, Sarutobi? Naruto asked as he leaned back in his throne. My nephew, is he well? Asuma asked, knowing full well that Maru respected and admired Naruto a great deal. The Emperor nodded. He is. He's with the garrison at the Suna consulate. Because of his actions in the war against the Akatsuki, Gaara promoted him and his two friends to Jonin. Can you talk to him? I've missed so much out of his life. Asuma asked to the point that it sounded like he was pleading. Naruto slowly nodded. I'll see what I can do. Asuma nodded his thanks and made his exit. Was that her? Some asked as the clan heads and their children left the House of Sovereigns. I smelled foxes surrounding her. Kiba nodded. Yeah. That's the Ninetales, all right. Quite amazing to see how the Emperor has the most powerful of the Bijou under his command. Chibi noted. Even more amazing that he did not have us execute for screwing him over. Shikaka added. If it wasn't for the hair color, he'd look exactly like his dad. Chusa nodded. You think we made the right choice in coming here? Inochi nodded. Most definitely. It will be hard at first, but in the end, things will work out for the best. I would rather take my chances with a banished ninja turned emperor rather than that crazy warhawk and his ass-kissing henchman. In the meantime, we should get settled in. Some said. Inside the Imperial Palace, the Emperor of the Unified West and his wife were seated with the two surviving sages and were talking over dinner. How was the way in? Hinata asked. Very scenic. Tsunade replied. Is it true? About Orochimaru? I took his head myself. Naruto replied. And I took his sword as a trophy. Kabuto is also gone. Zabuza took his head as well. Susanu's wrath was a huge success. I did what I said I would do. That you did, Jiraiya said. So what now? Danzu is now a credible threat. Once the Fire Lord croaks, he will be hell-bent on destroying you and your allies. I know, Naruto replied. He tried to kill one of my merchants, I believe you know her. I had her reassigned to the Imperial garrison down in Wave Country. That was Danzu's intended target, because of my support base there. So after talking it over with Tazuma and the Wave Council, they agreed to letting my troops destroy the bridge, thus hindering Danzu's attempts to invade. Just a week earlier, we received a formal notice from the Rokudaime-elect and what remained of the Konoha Council. Hinata continued, saying that the Pekora Merchant House is ordered by the Rokudaime and Civilian Council to pay reparations to the Konoha Mercantile Guild, as well as a notice from the Hyuga main branch declaring our marriage to be null and void, and that I must return to Konoha immediately. The arrogance of the council and their crazy Hokage. Naruto snorted. It did get a good laugh from the council when we showed it to them. So I relayed an order to Captain Asahina and told her to send Konoha a message, hence the destruction of the Hokage monument and the former clan's homes. Asahina blowing up the Uchiha district was a bonus. The message is clear. I can destroy Konoha whenever and however I want, but I will let them live with the disgrace that they had brought upon themselves. And what if Konoha do try and attack the unified West? Jiraiya asked. I'll tell you the same thing I told the council. Naruto replied. I'll simply turn Kumo and Iwa loose on them, blame Konoha for Susanu's wrath. Let Danzu deal with stone and lightning. Fair enough. Tsunade said. What do you have planned for the clans? I don't know just yet. Hinata and I still have to go through the files you gave us, but off the top of my head, Zabuza needs some help with the interrogation and torture division of the Imperial Defense Forces, so Inochi, Ibiki and Anko would be at home there. We also got a ninja academy in East Kimin, so some of the ninja can teach, others can patrol the city and the countryside. There's plenty to do here in the West. Konoha is the least of my worries at the moment. And if blaming Konoha on the attacks on Kumo and Iwa don't work? Jiraiya asked. Then I'll let Kitami finish what she started. Only this time, she will be a willing participant in the matter, Naruto replied. In the back of their minds, the two remaining sages almost felt bad for their former village. Keyword being almost. Chapter 13 Burying the Hatchet. Journal of the Emperor, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Entry 1. It's been 2 weeks since the destruction of the Sound and of Orochimaru's death by my hands. 2 weeks since I allowed the Konoha clan's asylum to cripple Konoha's power. I told the clans that I would not make it easy for them, and so far I have kept my word. But they are resilient, and do not back down from a challenge. I should start off with Tsunade and Jiraiya. At Hinata's request, I assigned Tsunade to the hospital along with Shizen and Ino. I also notified Tsunade about Kokoro Yamada, and of her connection to the Senju. Tsunade was surprised to find out that she had family still living, and they survived the generations of war. The slug sage and the clan had hit it off pretty well, and I discovered another thing about Kokoro: she likes her sake as well. Jiraiya could have retired and I would have to deal with him peeping in the women's hot springs. But he was needed back east, as his spy network was still situated in Spring Country. So now, he is working with the intelligence network out of the Pecora merchant house in Spring, still independent. Aside from the Fire Lord, he also sends me intel regarding movements regarding IWA, Kumo, and Konoha. Inoichi Yamanaka is at home with the IDF's interrogation and torture division. When he resigned, he brought Ibiki Marino, Ankle Mitarashi, and all of Konoha's interrogation division with him. Zabuza found a friendly rival in Ibiki. They both can be seen at the bar trading war stories and slamming back tall glasses of beer at the end of the day. Ino, on the other hand, enjoys working at the hospital. One day, as Hinata and I made our rounds through the capital, we both spied Haku and Ino having lunch together at the local barbecue shack. Just recently, Inoichi has reopened his flower shop with his wife and Ino. Kimen City was lacking in that department, and almost immediately, the Yamanaka flower shop turned out to be a huge success with the people. Shikaku Nara is now the vice commander of the Jounin forces in the IDF, his authority second to Rose Shinto's father, Commander Jiro Shinto. Those two are opposites, but Jiro can see that the lazy Nara is a gifted tactician. The area in which the Nara clan had settled in is known for its deer. Something that Shikaku easily fell back on, given how he herds deer in his spare time. The Nara were also known to be expert herbalists, of which the Akimichi obtained their special pills and the Inuzuka military pills from. Old habits die hard in this case. Shikaku's knowledge in herbal medicines can prove to be invaluable to the imperial forces in the long run, which is why I allowed him to resume his research into his herbal medicine. The southern region's island chain has several herbs I know that will interest him very well, which is why I allowed him to have several Pecora merchants to deliver the herbs to him. As for his son, maybe I have a sadistic side to me. I think Kitami and Zabuza has definitely rubbed off on me. I assigned Shikamaru to act as my proxy in the Suna consulate, which means he has to deal with Temari. Which leads me to the Akimichi. Chusa works alongside Shikaku in the IDF. Han had picked a fight with him while he was passing through the imperial capital on his way to the southern region to visit Rashi. The fight took place at training ground number 28, where the already established clans and the Konoha refugees watched the ensuing fight. Suffice to say, the training ground was leveled, and the match ended in a draw. But Chusa had earned the respect of the former IWA ninja. And even though Han would not admit it, he was impressed with the Akimichi's skills. His son works at the Ninja Academy alongside Tenten, Rock Lee and Mato Gai, Chuji teaching basic taijutsu, a skill he excelled in back in Konoha. Moving down the line, Asuma and Kurenai Sarutobi. Given Asuma's background as a bodyguard for the Fire Lord, he was the 9th member of the elite guards. Almost immediately, he picked up a rival in Rose Shinto. Oh, and concerning him and Maru, I did keep my word and talked to Maru about his uncle being here. Maru was still upset over the fact that Asuma was here, but deep down, he was still hurting. So I came up with a plan. What can I say? I'm still unpredictable. I had Asuma and Maru face off in a match. If Asuma won, then both he and Maru will sit down and talk. If Maru won, then Asuma would no longer bother him. Maru won, and when it looked like the bonds that held the Sarutobi clan would forever be severed, Maru relented. Uncle and nephew sat down and talked inside the reception room. I am glad to say that Maru has reconciled with his uncle. Little Hitomi likes her big cousin as well. Kurenai had been teaching at the Konoha Academy in intermediate and advanced genjutsu. When her successor at the Kimen Imperial Academy had retired days before the Konoha refugees' arrival, she had overheard about his vacant position and had put in for it. Hinata talks to her on occasion as she teaches a course twice a week on weapons combat. I also teach at the academy, only I teach philosophy. Next on the list, the Hyuga clan. Who'd have thought that Niji and Tenten had hooked up? I suspect that one of the reasons why Niji decided to come here was to avoid his child being branded with the caged bird seal. That and the Cadet Branch clan would be allowed to flourish in the unified West without the hindrance of the main branch. As I've mentioned earlier, because of his leadership skills, the Cadet Branch— no, that's not right, make that the Western branch of the Hyuga appointed Niji as clan head. The former Cadet Branch numbered 80 in total, with half of that number Chunin and Jounin level ninja. For them, I assigned them to the Military Police Division, which patrolled the streets of Kimin City and the port. Niji, on the other hand, opted to work at the Imperial Academy alongside Rock Lee and Meido Gai as taijutsu teachers, while Tenten was a weapons instructor. In her part-time, she also operated a weapons shop, catering to both samurai and ninja alike. The Inuzuka were still high on my shit list, but that still didn't mean that they could make themselves useful. For Tsum and that boneheaded son of hers, they both were assigned to the IDF's tracker division. Hana worked as an assistant veterinarian. Let Kiba and Tsum chase down bandits and highwaymen for the next year. See how they like it. Next are the Aburame. I forgot to mention that there is a clan similar to the Aburame, as they also deal with bugs. Only difference was that instead of Kikuchu bugs, the Yokoyama clan used Laja giant hornets. Reminds me of Iwa's Kamizura clan, who also uses attack bees. Only difference was the Laja giant hornet is as big as your thumb and rather drain your chakra. It poisons you to death. Pretty useful for the recon division, which is where Shibi and Shino ended up. Of course, once in a while, I had to use the famed Ino Shikacho trio, both generations, to put down the occasional brigand or for an escort mission to the southern region. At least they get to travel, so they really can't complain. As for my former teammates, the idiot Hataki and the last Uchiha, I originally planned on assigning them to Zabuza's Demon Brigade, but decided against it. Tsunade had told me that Sasuke was training to become a member of the ANBU before the Exodus, so I assigned the both of them to the IDF 2nd Division under General Kubigami. I still get bad memories whenever I see those two, so I avoid them as much as possible. But Hinata was right about one thing. Sooner or later, I will have to deal with the Uchiha, one way or another. Maybe I'll deal with him once the Imperial tournaments are over. Entry 2. The Imperial tournaments in South Ichiyama always draw a big crowd from both the East and the West. Ninja, samurai and fighters from the Empire and the East all come for a week-long tournament to see who is the best of the best. Aside from the major tournament here, we also hold regional tournaments in both regions, to keep the fighters' skills sharp. Just in case war rears its ugly head once again. Plus, the masses always love a good fight. But something unexpected happened. Sasuke had signed on to compete in the tournament. I had fought the Uchiha twice, at the Valley of the End, and in Suna once the Chunin exams were completed. Now, he is taking on the finest the unified West has to offer. And if by some stroke of luck he makes it to the finals, then he has to fight A, who is the current champion. Aside from Hinata and myself, Tsunade and Jiraiya were also present, as were Demio Fujikes. The major clan heads formed the north and south regions, and the Konoha heads. Aside from Sasuke, Niji and Rock Lee also signed up for the tournament. Those three have their work cut out for them. Entry 3. During the tournament, an envoy from IWA arrived seeking an audience with me and Hinata. The envoy was led by the recent, Y-elected Tsuchikage herself, Anoki's granddaughter Kuratsuchi. Looks like Danzu let it slip that I was the Emperor of the West, and that my father was Minato Namikaze, hoping that IWA would take me out of the picture. Our meeting was an interesting one, to say the least. Flashback: South Ichiyama, Southern Region. The largest city in the Southern Region, South Ichiyama was home to the week-long Imperial Tournament, of which the Emperor and Empress consort were present, taking in the tournament fights with great interest. However, Naruto and Hinata were not at the stadium, since the tournaments were over for the night. The Emperor and Empress consort was called into an emergency sit-down with an envoy from IWA, led by the godamed Tsuchikage herself, Kuratsuchi. Naruto was no fool. Which is why he had Tsunade and the elite guards here, just in case things degenerated. The Emperor and Empress consort were in the reception room of the Ichiyama Hotel, seated in chairs. Kuratsuchi herself was also seated, her squad of Jounin-level ninja flanking her as well. Naruto was in his usual black attire, the long coat casually slung over his chair, while his wife looked stunning in her Kesugame dress. The godamed Tsuchikage was in her robes of state, while her ninja were in their standard Jounin attire. "So is it true?" Kuratsuchi asked. Are you the son of Minato Namikaze? I am, Naruto calmly replied. The IWA ninja whispered among each other, while Kuratsuchi remained calm. So why is the son of our most hated enemy the Emperor of the Unified West? I was banished from Konoha 8 years ago, so I have no love for Konoha, Naruto replied. Especially for their current Hokage. Tsunade and a number of Konoha ninja are here because she asked for asylum, rather than serve under an oppressive and corrupt government. That I have to agree with you, Kuratsuchi said. In fact, it was an envoy from Konoha who had notified us about you. Knowing Danzu, he hoped that IWA would try and go to war with the Unified West, Naruto pointed out. Danzu hates me because he wanted me as Konoha's weapon, but he despises IWA and Kumo more, as he wishes to rule not only Konoha, but he could be an even bigger threat to the east than I could be. The Godame cocked an eyebrow. Oh? Naruto leaned back in his seat. I have no intentions of invading the west, as I have told your grandfather when he came to Suna following the Akatsuki invasion. I am very content with my life here. Kuratsuchi studied the younger man for a long moment. You may be the son of the Yellow Flash, but I mistrust Danzu even more. The war with Kumo and Oto has pretty much left the stone with less than half of its forces. Kumo is even worse off than we are. If you agree to leave IWA in peace, I promise you as Godame Tsuchikage not to interfere with your Pekora merchants, nor your allies in the east. Naruto and Hinata exchanged whispers for a moment before Naruto turned back to Kuratsuchi. As long as you don't interfere with Suna, Wave or Spring, we will not attack IWA. Konoha is fair game, but not the fire capital itself or the daimyo, as he was the one who kept me out of the bingo book. Honor my requests, and I will not attack. My grandfather was right about you, Kuratsuchi said. You are indeed a wise and sensible ruler. I will honor your request in exchange for Yua's safety. Naruto nodded. Go in peace, Lady Tsuchikage. End flashback. I sent an imperial envoy to IWA with the non-aggression pact, of which Kuratsuchi had signed. IWA is out of the equation. Kumo is not that big of a threat, so I decided to leave them alone. But, if they attack Spring, then all bets are off. Entry 4. Sasuke Uchiha has blown through the competition. Only Takuma Chiba had given him a serious challenge. He has improved greatly since our last encounter. Who knows, if he defeats A, he might challenge me next. But as he fought his way through the tournament, I can see the determination in his eyes. I should know, since I had the same look in my own eyes when I united the West. Just as I was the hope for the people of the West, he holds the hope of the Konoha refugees on his shoulders. Maybe the will of fire is still alive in the Uchiha after all. Entry 5. The tournament is over. Sasuke Uchiha is the new champion. I had given it his all, but Sasuke had pulled through. The strange thing about it is that he had only one request, of which was relayed to me by the proctor. Sasuke wanted an audience with the Emperor, in other words, me. My first response to his request was no, but then that would make me a hypocrite, seeing as how I managed to get Maru and Asuma talking again. But it was Granny Tsunade that had talked me into making my peace with Sasuke. She told me that he was disgusted with how the civilian council had treated me just for doing my job. Kinda ironic how the one person I despised the most saw me not as the Ninetales, but as a loyal ninja to the leaf. I hope I will not regret this, as I agreed to the meeting. I will arrange to meet with my former teammate at the Imperial Complex's private gardens once we return to Kimin. I still mistrust him after all this time, but I have put Konoha behind me. I am not the demon brat that they made me. Here, I am respected and loved by all. I really hope that I am not going to regret this. Imperial Complex. Palace Gardens. 2 days had passed since Sasuke had made the request following his victory at the Imperial Tournament. Since then, he had slowly gained the respect of not only his fellow refugees, as well as the admiration of the people of Kimin. It had also gained the attention of a young kunoichi who worked alongside the last Uchiha, a fire user like himself, and also the last of her clan. The attraction was mutual to Sasuke. Then Asuma dropped by his dorm that morning to deliver a message. He was to escort Sasuke to the Imperial Complex for his meeting with the Emperor. His C.O. was already notified, and Sasuke was in the clear. The younger Jounin was then taken to the Imperial Complex, and told to wait for the Emperor in the Palace Gardens. Located at the back of the complex, Naruto had it done for Hinata as a wedding gift. Think Shang Tsung's Palace Gardens, without the outworld-related stuff in it and the statues, seeing as how his wife loved flowers. Even Sasuke was impressed with the beauty of the gardens. Not even Konoha had something like this. The samurai believe that a perfect blossom is a rare thing. Sasuke turned around at the sound of the voice. Leaning up against a tree, dressed in his standard black attire, sans the long coat, was his former teammate. Arms folded across his chest, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze remained at his spot, looking at the sakura trees that Sasuke was admiring earlier. For them, they could spend their entire lives looking for the perfect blossom, and for them, it would not be a wasted life. He straightened himself up and walked towards his teammate. I had this place created for Hinata when we were married. She loves it here. Sasuke nodded, noticing for the first time that Naruto was taller than he was, if only slightly. It's very beautiful. For the record, I still don't trust you. Naruto continued. I almost refused this meeting outright. But after I managed to get Maru and Asuma back talking again, that would make me a hypocrite. So here I am. What do you want, Uchiha? I came to ask for your forgiveness. Sasuke replied. For what had happened at the Valley of the End, and for causing your banishment. You didn't cause my banishment. Danzu, those two old geezers who were Sarutobi's teammates, the Banshee's mother and Hayashi were responsible for that. The only thing I was guilty of was just doing my job. But answer me this, why? Why run to Orochimaru, and risk being labeled as a missing ninja, when you had everything back in Konoha? You were the little prince, and what was I? The demon brat, the dead last. Sasuke took the Emperor's verbal barrage pretty well. I guess I really have no excuse for what I did. I wanted the power needed to kill my brother, and Orochimaru was the best idea at the time. I didn't know that my actions would end up destroying Cell 7. It was after you were banished, while I was holed up in the hospital, that I realized something. You may have been the dope of the Rookie 11, but you never did quit. Tsunade told me about you being the Jinchuriki to the Nine Tails, and even a blind man could see that you are not the fox incarnate. Otherwise, you would have pulled a Gaara and long since burned Konoha to the ground. Glad to see you're not as stupid as the Scarecrow and the Banshee, Naruto thought. He then asked, why did you come here? Redemption, mostly. The Uchiha replied. When Konoha was originally founded, Madara had nothing to his name. Now, history repeats itself. Only this time, I will not make the same mistakes Madara, Itachi, nor my father had made. You killed Itachi, something that I could never do. You pretty much have a habit of making the impossible possible. But the most important reason why I came here was to counter Madara's prophecy, the curse of hatred. Curse of hatred? Naruto repeated. The six-path sage adopted two boys. The eldest would be known as the clan ancestor of the Uchiha, the younger the clan ancestor of the Senju. Even though the boys were not related by blood, the six-path sage trained them both in the shinobi arts. When the six-path sage was dying, he made the younger brother, the Senju, his chosen heir, because he held the ideas of which Hashirama Senju would base his ideas regarding the will of fire. The Uchiha clan head did not take that very well, I suspect? Yeah. The Uchiha felt cheated out of his birthright, and waged war against the Senju. Thus began a cycle of hatred that transcended history, culminating in the mutual hostility between the Uchiha and Senju. Madara and Fugaku believed that the Uchiha would end up fighting the Senju to the death. You, being a descendant of the Senju through your mother's side, and me being the last Uchiha, Madara believed that it was fate that we would end up fighting to the death. So you knew about Madara? Sasuke nodded. He came to me, shortly before the Tsunade War, and led me to the underground chambers inside the main house of the Uchiha. There, he explained it all to me, that I was destined to fight you until one of us died. Before that, I found the papers regarding my father's plans for the attempted coup. Madara had used Itachi to slaughter the clan. Itachi was good, but he was no match for the eternal Magenkyu Sharingan. What do you think? Naruto asked. I think you said it best before you fought Niji in T-Country. There is no such thing as fate. There is only choice. It was my choice to reject the curse of hatred, because it had all but brought the Uchiha to ruin. It was my choice to leave Konoha rather than to serve under Danzu. And it was my choice to come here asking for your forgiveness. You offered my friendship, and I ended up shoving a Chidori into your chest as a result. Much to Naruto's surprise, Sasuke went down on one knee. Emperor Namikaze, I Sasuke Uchiha, do formally dedicate myself and the Uchiha clan into the service of the unified West. I will not make the same mistakes that my father and Madara had made. If you ask it, I will even give you my life. For 1 full minute, Naruto looked at Sasuke. Then he ordered him to rise. I'm not going to have you killed, Sasuke. I'm not a bloodthirsty butcher. But like I've told the clans when I summoned them here, you must earn your redemption. But coming here and admitting your faults, that did take major courage from your part. I guess we both had some growing up to do. Ironically, Konoha was holding me back from reaching my true potential. So the banishment was a blessing in disguise. You've earned my forgiveness, but what I've said about your redemption will remain. Sasuke bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty. Naruto waved him off. Don't bother with that. Most people around here call me Chief. Goes back to when I was uniting the lands. There's something you should know about Shimura, before I forget. He has the Sharingan. Sasuke's eyes went wide. What? Are you sure? The Emperor nodded, one implanted in his left eye, which he keeps concealed by his bandages, and a mechanical arm loaded with 10 of them. He must have gotten them after the Uchiha massacre. He was no match for my fox eye, though. But he is still more dangerous than ever. Will you go to war against Konoha? I hope not, but the Rokudaime and his lackey still has it in for me, despite me being the Emperor. He tried to invade Wave, but I managed to convince Tazuma to allow my units to destroy the bridge. Wave is safe for the time being. But sooner or later the unified West will be forced into a showdown with Konoha. By that time, the Fire Lord would have been finished with the creation of his new village and will strip Konoha of its hidden village status. A fate worse than death for a shinobi village, I'm sure. Sasuke replied. If Konoha's status as a shinobi village is removed, then they will lose all perks and benefits that comes with the rights of being a shinobi village. No military aid, no shinobi. Danzu and Hayashi will flip out if that happens. Before the conversation could continue, one of the Imperial ninja who was assigned to the complex appeared via Shunshin. Lord Namikaze, your wife is waiting for you inside the council chambers. The other council members are starting to arrive. Naruto dismissed the ninja. Naruto dismissed him as well. This meeting is over. Return to your post, Uchiha. Once Sasuke was gone, Naruto addressed the third party that was watching from the shadows. You think he was telling me the truth? Kitami appeared from behind the trees she was hiding. He sounded sincere, but only time will tell whether or not he will prove his worth. The Ninetales replied. I'm surprised you didn't end up fighting him. Naruto chuckled as both he and Kitami walked up the pathway. Are you kidding? Hinata would be pretty pissed if someone trashed her gardens. Seeing Hinata mad with her Bikogan activated is something no one wants to see. True, Kitami said. I do believe she did that on you several times. It had taken them a week, traveling from Spring Country to catch a boat, but the Konoha envoy had finally arrived in the imperial capital. Sakura Haruno and Hanmura Mitokado, both representing the Konoha Council and the Konoha Mercantile Guild and Hanabi Hyuga, along with their escort, 3 Konoha ANBU and 3 Hyuga ninja, took in the sights of the imperial capital as they made their way to the imperial complex. Danzu and the Konoha Council had made it clear. This was an SS-class mission of the utmost importance. The Konoha envoy was to set their demands down upon the Demon Emperor and his whore. Failure to comply would result in a declaration of war upon the United West and their allies. Unknown to them, someone from Konoha had saw their arrival. As they passed the Suna consulate, Shikamaru had noticed the Konoha envoy and after excusing himself, ran for the Imperial complex. Inside the Imperial Council chambers, Naruto and Hinata was looking over the reports regarding the Medic Ninja Corps program that Tsunade had developed along with Kokoro Yamada. Ino Yamanaka stood before the Imperial Council, having delivered the reports herself from the hospital. Despite having united the West, Naruto still had to contend with uprisings from highwaymen, bandits, and remnants in both regions looking for their own slice of the pie. Naruto's methods in dealing with men like these were simple. Lay down your arms, join the unified West, and enjoy the benefits and perks of serving under him, or face complete destruction. The smart ones chose to join up, while those continued to fight, and were summarily annihilated. The Imperial Medic Ninja program started by Lady Tsunade and Lady Yamada has proven to produce very effective results. Naruto said as he passed the reports down to Hinata and A. With each squad having a medic ninja, casualties will be down by more than half. Congratulations. Thank you, Chief. Ino replied. She had heard that Naruto preferred to be called Chief, rather than the more formal Your Imperial Majesty. She had also seen how he was a hard-working and just emperor. Not to mention that Hinata had made an excellent match for him. But things between her and Haku were taking off as well. Before the meeting could continue, Asuma Sarutobi rushed inside the room, followed by a breathless Shikamaru Nara. Lord Namikaze. Lady Namikaze. Shikamaru panted. Troublesome. What is it? Hinata asked. There's an envoy from Konoha on their way here. Asuma reported. Shikamaru saw them as they passed the Suna consulate. He just told me. 9 in total, Lord Namikaze. Sakura Haruno, Hanmura Mitokado, Hanabi Hyuga, and 6 ninja, 3 from Konoha and BU and the other 3 from the Hyuga. They should be here in less than 10 minutes. Naruto's eyes narrowed, as did Hinata's. Kitami and A were both wondering if Konoha had a death wish. The council members whispered among themselves. Ino gasped, as their past was about to come back to haunt them with a vengeance. Naruto immediately took action. Have the complex guards on standby in case they try anything. He ordered. Asuma, rally the guards and tell them to come here immediately. Naruto and Hinata were not taking any chances. The 9-member team of elite bodyguards were stationed behind the Emperor and Empress consort, ready to defend their Emperor and Empress from any threats. Kitami was also present, having changed out of her kimono and into her ninja uniform. You'd think they'd learn by now. Naruto mused. Hinata turned to her husband. You think Konoha would learn that they are not the strongest village anymore? Oh well, I'll send word to the Fire Lord and tell him to proceed with the plan. But first, we need to deal with our guests. They didn't have to wait for very long, as one of the valets had led the Konoha envoy inside the council chambers. Hanmura, Sakura and Hanabi were shocked once the news that Naruto was the Emperor of the Unified West was released, but seeing him seated with Hinata at his side was indeed something that were not expecting. Even more, they had been led to the council chambers, of which all of the council members had either cross nor angry looks on their faces. The 6 ninja remained at the door, while the 3 representatives stepped forward and stopped in front of the table containing the Emperor, the Empress consort, his chief prime minister, and his chief advisor. Naruto glared back at the intruders who dared to arrive uninvited at his doorstep. They glared back at him. You are guests in my home, Naruto noted. The least you can do is show the proper respect for your betters. You are no better than us, you. Sakura began before she was silenced by Hanmura. As I've said, Naruto repeated. You are guests in my home, and in my empire. You should choose your words very carefully, otherwise you will not return to Konoha alive. You are outnumbered, as my council not only advises me in all things pertaining to the Unified West, but can kill each and every one the Konoha ninja 100 times over. That very much was true. Despite having the elite Konoha ANBU and the best of the Hyuga ninja backing them up, the Konoha ninja were still outnumbered. Hanmura straightened himself up and retrieved a scroll. Naruto Uzumaki, I bring word from the Rokudame Hokage, Danzu Shimura. He unrolled the scroll and began to read off from it. By order of the Rokudame Hokage and the Council of Konoha, Tsunade, Senju, and Jiraiya, along with the clans and high-ranking Chunin and Jounin, are declared traitors to the Leaf and are ordered to return to Konohagakure no Sato to face charges of desertion and dereliction of duty. Second, the Pekora merchant house is to be liquidated. Its income and properties are now the property of Asana Haruno and the Konoha Mercantile Guild. Third, by order of the Rokudame Hokage and Hyuga clan head, Hayashi Hyuga, your marriage to Hinata Hyuga is declared null and void, and Hinata is to immediately return to Konohagakure no Sato to face the Hyuga clan's justice. At that, Ruji and Haruka snorted. Hinata, on the other hand, looked amused. Hanmura continued reading. Fourth, all monies from the Senju accounts and any and all monies from the Namikaze clan as well as all jutsu taken from the Konoha library, as well as the Forbidden Scroll are forfeit and to be returned to the Leaf effective immediately. This also include all monies which you have gained as Emperor of the Unified West, including said accounts in Spring and Tea countries. Fifth, under the Konoha Clan Restoration Act, Sasuke Uchiha is to be married to Sakura Haruno upon his return to Konohagakure no Sato in order to preserve the Sharingan. You are to also surrender the names of your shinobi and samurai clans and send them to Konoha in order for the Leaf to regain her standing as the strongest of the shinobi villages. The gathered council members looked at Hanmura as if he had lost his mind. Hanmura finally got to the last part of the scroll. And last, you, Naruto Uzumaki, the demon of Konoha, are to abdicate your throne and return to Konoha no Sato to face a war tribunal for crimes against the leaf. The Jinchuriki under your control are also under the control of Konoha no Sato, and are to be initiated into the ANBU. He looked up, rolled up the scroll. So ordered by the Rokudame Hokage of Konoha, Danzu Shimura. Hanmura handed over the scroll to the nearby valet, who in turn handed it over to the Emperor, who looked the scroll over, alongside Hinata and A. And what is to happen to the clan heads upon returning to Konoha? Hinata asked. They will be executed as an example to show that desertion from the leaf will not be tolerated, and their children will be initiated into the ANBU. Hanmura replied, Hayashi will personally execute Niji Hyuga and the branch council. You think you can just waltz into my home uninvited with your paper shield and make such ridiculous demands of myself and of the unified West? Naruto asked as he shoved the scroll to the side. And what makes you think that I, let alone my wife, will bow to your demands? If you do not wish to see your allies in Wave or the Spring Daimyo suffer the wrath of Konoha once we invade, you will make the right decision and submit to the will of the leaf. Sakura shot back. She then got a real evil smile on her face. Does this council know about your tenet? That you are the Ninetales reborn? I'm willing to bet that they would hand you over when they find out how much of a demon you are. Much to her surprise, Naruto glared back at her without fear. They already know about me being the Jinchuriki. Or former Jinchuriki. I freed the Ninetales from the seal a long time ago. He jerked a thumb in Kitami's direction. She's seated beside me. Sakura, Hanabi and Hanmura looked at the stunning redhead, who was rising from her seat, then back at the smug Emperor. They thought that Kiba was lying about the Ninetales being a redhead in human form. The killer intent washed over the Konoha Anvo. Even the Hyuga and Anbu were taken aback by the Bijou Queen's aura. Then they saw the 9 foxtails emerge from her backside. And they knew what Naruto was said was indeed true. All this time, they had abused the boy all for nothing. The same boy that was the son of the Yondaime. Be careful who you insult, Sakura Haruno, Kitami warned. You may not like the consequences of your actions. The 6 ninja went for their weapons, but Hanmura ordered them to stay their hands. The fact that Naruto was not the demon fox had definitely complicated things. Danzu must have balls as big as temple bells to think he can boss me around, despite orchestrating my banishment alongside Hayashi, your buddy on the council, and that harpy of a Haruno. At that, Hanmura's eyes went wide. Of course I know. Naruto continued. I found out after the Tsunade War. I could have had Tsunade kill all of you at that time, or better yet, I could have you executed, then invade Konoha and finish what the Ninetales have started. It took me getting tossed on my ass to see that the corruption in Konoha is far too deep. And here you are, in my home, making demands as if I was a genin, the nerve. You have no choice in the matter. Sakura sneered. Are you willing to risk the destruction of your allies? No, because Konoha is weak, Naruto replied. Your threats are as empty as the village's soul. Tell me, did you manage to regain any of the alliances you had because of me? No. I thought as much. These past 8 years have all but weakened Konoha. Hell, even Kumo and IWA could invade the Leaf and still win. As for your demands, Hinata chimed in. You can take them and shove it. You have no choice in the matter. Hanabi shot back. There's always a choice, they said. You just made the wrong one in thinking you can make demands of the Emperor. That Emperor is a genin of Konoha no Sato, Hanmura shouted, pointing at the Emperor. Oh, so now that I am the most powerful man in the West with an army, not to mention giving Konoha one black eye after the other by defeating Konoha's finest, am I a genin? I don't answer to Konoha, its Rokudame Hokage, or to any of you. The unified West does not recognize the authority of Konoha no Sato, not its council or the likes of you. Then you will risk having Konoha invade Wave and Spring, Hanabi pointed out. Oh, you are such a fool, Hanabi, Hinata said. Danzu tried to send an invading force to Wave, but we ended up destroying the bridge. Spring Country's hidden shinobi village is up and running, has been for the past 5 years, and will defend their land and their daimyo from any and all threats. Mist and Suna will decimate your forces while we will sit back and watch. Your forces have been weakened, and would not stand even a siege, so don't you dare make demands of us. Hanmura knew that Hinata was right. He had hoped that Danzu's bluff could force the unified West into capitulation, but he could see that it had failed. Konoha had fallen from grace the past 8 years when Naruto was banished. The exodus of the village's most powerful clans and ninja has left Konoha on the brink. Furthermore, the Konoha refugees are under the protection of the unified West. Naruto continued. The Pekora merchant house will not surrender its resources nor its wars to the Banshee's mother. And I will not hand over the fortunes of the Namikaze clan, my clan. You are no Namikaze. Hanmura grated. You're just an orphan, a nobody. Naruto didn't stop. We can care less what Konoha and Hayashi could think about our marriage. And we will not surrender our clans, nor will I surrender the Jinchuriki for Danzu's intentions. Last, I will not abdicate my throne. He rose from his seat. You think you can dictate orders to me like a genin? I can kill you myself and send your bodies back to the Warhawk as a warning. But I will not do that. You're going to let us go? Hanabi asked. No. You are going to spend time inside the Imperial dungeons. Hinata replied. You will stay there for the night, and afterward, you will return home. I suggest you do what is good for you and allow us to walk out of here. Hanmura replied. Otherwise you will have a bloodbath on your hands. The ninja here are Konoha elite. Do you think you have a chance against us? Naruto looked amused. Then he activated a hidden seal. Hanmura, Sakura and Hanabi, as well as the 6 ninja fell to their knees, as the chakra-draining seals took effect, draining their bodies of energy, but not killing them. Once the Konoha ninja were effectively disabled, a squad of Imperial ninja entered the room, stripped the Konoha envoy of their weapons, and hauled them out of the council chambers. Naruto grinned as Sakura shouted death curses at him and Hinata. The seal was a basic one, yet effective. It was something that he had used before during the Unification Wars, and it had saved his life on many an occasion. Hinata looked at her husband, her expression mirroring that of her husband. You truly are unpredictable, love, Hinata said. And you love me for it, was the Emperor's reply. He retrieved the Konoha scroll. This can be useful to our advantage. How? Easy. The clans from Konoha and the ninja will need to know about this. Naruto turned to Asuma. I want all clans and ninja assembled in the North Kimen Public Assembly in 1 hour. Make it so, Sarutobi. Asuma bowed. Yes, Chief. What are you going to do? Sunshire asked after Asuma had left. Cement the loyalty of the refugees to my cause, Naruto replied as he retrieved his long coat and slipped it over his shoulders. This meeting is adjourned. Hey, Kitami, Hinata, you're with me. North Kimen Public Assembly, 1 hour later. Before Kimen had expanded into a city, the assembly once served as its town square. Then Rokubunji Oda had moved in and expanded Kimen City tenfold. Now, the public assembly was filled with the Konoha refugees, with the clan heads taking the front. Sasuke Uchiha stood beside Niji Hyuga and Suminizuka, curious as to why the Emperor has called for a meeting of the Konoha refugees. Standing in the clearing, Longcoat fluttering in the gentle wind, Naruto scanned the gathered audience. The clan heads and their families were present, as were the Chunin and Jounin, some of which were on the rooftops, looking down at him. Even Tsunade and Jiraiya stood among the clans, wondering what Naruto had up his sleeve. Hinata was at his side, while Kitami and A remained behind. Less than 2 hours ago, an envoy from Konohagakure no Sato arrived on my doorstep. Naruto began, his voice radiating power. He brandished the scroll. They came to the imperial capital, and entered our home uninvited to order me and my wife around, making demands that I cannot and will not meet. He tossed the scroll to Jiraiya, who unrolled it and began to read it alongside Tsunade. The Rokudaime Hokage has declared all of you traitors to the Leaf, and has ordered your return to the Leaf, where the clan heads will face execution, and their children will be forcibly initiated into his root A and BU. A chorus of "No!" erupted from the ninja. He and Hayashi Hyuga have declared my marriage to Hinata invalid and have ordered her to return to Konoha, where she will most likely face death. They have also declared that Sasuke Uchiha is to be married to Sakura Haruno in order to preserve the Sharingan. At that, Sasuke blanched. They also demanded the liquidation of the Pekora merchant house in order to line the pockets of the Konoha Mercantile Guild. Naruto continued, his voice unwavering. As well as any and all monies from your clans, the Senju clan and the Namikaze clans forfeit. Danzu also demands that I send the clans of the Unified West, as well as the Jinchuriki under my banner to Konoha for the purpose of regaining the strength that it had lost through their own actions. And last, they demand that I give up my throne, and return to Konoha to face war crimes. By that time, the scroll had passed on to the elder Inoshikacho trio. The scroll contained the Hokage insignia, as well as Danzu's signature. It had all but verified Naruto's claims. Even now, Konoha curses my existence. Danzu wanted me as a mindless weapon when I was growing up, and following the Uchiha retrieval mission, had me banished when he saw that I could not be controlled. Even now, after the Tsunade War, he has seen me as a credible threat. I have no intention of going to war, but I will defend not only my interests back in the East, but my allies as well. He believes that a ninja should kill their emotions. I believe otherwise. It's what makes us human. Oh, he knows how to work it, Jiraiya whispered to Tsunade, noticing that the young emperor's charismatic side was starting to emerge. I have no intentions of invading Konoha, or anywhere else in the East. Naruto continued. I am very content with what I have in the West. But if Danzu continues down this path, he will be dealt with extreme prejudice. You still have your concerns with coming here, and that is understandable. But I have to know, where does your loyalties lie? Jiraiya noticed that Naruto did not say himself or Konoha. That was a smart move. Then he saw Shikaku step forward to face the Emperor. You could have destroyed Konoha at any given moment, the Nara clan had said. You could have wiped all of us out of spite. But you didn't. You and your old man are a rare breed. You don't let the past dictate your actions in the present. After seeing that scroll and what Danzu tried to do to our kids, I'll take my chances here. Same here, Inoichi said. Me too, Chuza added. You showed me twice that no one is bound to fate, Niji said. You truly can make the impossible possible, regardless of your lot in life. There is nothing left for us back in Konoha. My allegiance is with the unified West. You have the Inuzuka at your command, some said. Nara was right. Despite our earlier threats to kill you, you did not hold it against us. Konoha has indeed lost the will of fire. But it lives here. My father loved Konoha, Asuma continued. But he would be appalled as to what it had become. The Sarutobi clan is at the service of the unified West. Shibi and Shino exchanged glances. Then the elder Aburame spoke. The Aburame clan is at the unified West's disposal. Someone in the back then chanted Naruto's name. Seconds later, the clans and everyone else were chanting his name, in a show of support for the united West. Jiraiya watched all of this with a broad smile on his face. Oh, the kid definitely knows how to work the crowd, he thought. He made a mental note to talk to him later about taking over as the next Toad Sage. The following day, Naruto stood out in the courtyard, Hinata by his side as the Imperial Guards escorted the Konoha envoy from the dungeons. Hanmura, Sakura and Hanabi looked worse for the wear, while their escort looked worse for the wear. Naruto had made it where, given their location of their cells, they could hear Ibiki and Zabuza's interrogation sessions, as the pair was pulling an all-nighter, dealing with some highwaymen. Psychological warfare at its finest. You will be sent back to Fire Country to give your report to the Rokudame, Naruto decreed. And give him a message for me. Any acts of aggression will result in my becoming very angry. I orchestrated the destruction of the Akatsuki, and I can do the same to Konoha. At that, the elder and the two women gulped. Seeing that his threat had the prophet effect, Naruto turned around and activated the fox eye. His eyes going from cerulean to gold, he began to perform hand seals, picking up speed, before clapping his hands, shouting, Imperial style, Demon's Gate Jutsu. Hanmura, Sakura, Hanabi and the 6 ninja watched in awe as a massive steel gate, half the size of the main gates in Konoha, but still impressive, rose from the ground. Carved into the gates were the images of the tailed beasts from the 1 tail to the 9 tails. A massive lock was released and the doors flung open, releasing ice-cold air. After that, there was nothing but darkness. The Imperial ninja and samurai grabbed the Konoha envoy and, despite their pleas, threw them through the gate. The gate then slammed shut and dissipated, its power spent. The Demon's Gate Jutsu was one of the more powerful variants of the Hiraishin. It was a time-space jutsu, designed to move a large amount of people from one place to another in far less time. Naruto had used the Demon's Gate to send them back to the Konoha gates. By the time Hanmura would give his report, the Fire Daimyo would have come into play, and Konoha would be finished as a ninja village. Kanohigaku no Sato, Council Chambers. Things had changed since Danzu had seized control of Konoha. The first thing he had done was to dissolve the council, and reformed it using nothing but loyal shinobi. The second thing he had done was to weed out any and all dissidents to his rule, and had them executed. Loyalty was to the leaf, and to him above all else. Dissension was not tolerated. Second, he made plans to send his Route A and BU scouts to kidnap promising genin from the minor villages and have them brought back to Konoha, where they will be initiated into the Route A and BU. Last, he sent Hanmura Mitokado, Sakura Haruno and Hanabi Hyuga with his list of demands to the United West, with the threat or war on the allies of the United West. From the look of things, the mission was a failure. Seated at the Hokage's chair in his robes of state, Asana Haruno, Kohara Udatane and Hayashi Hyuga flanking him, Danzu gave the order to report, to which Hanmura had done in great detail, completing the report with the threat of Naruto invading Konoha should any of his interests and/or allies are attacked. Danzu dismissed the trio, but not before ordering the execution of the 6 Hyuga ninja and the Konoha ANBU for failing to protect the envoy. Failure was another thing that was not tolerated in Konoha. You either complete your mission, or die. So the Demon Emperor has refused our demands, Danzu said. Very well. I was hoping that we could reach an agreement without any blood being spilled. But now, the time for talking is over. Agreed, Hayashi replied. I propose that we set up a forward operations base in Whirlpool Country, and build up our forces there. Once our forces are strong enough, we will strike at Spring Country first. Danzu nodded. I agree with you, Hayashi. I will also send out my scouts to the minor villages in order to bring in some fresh recruits to rebuild Konoha's strength. It will take some time, but once Konoha is back on its feet, the shinobi world will soon fear the might of the leaf. After Danzu had said that a Route ANBU appeared via Shunshin. Lord Hokage, there is a courier ninja from the fire capital here to see you. Danzu nodded and seconds later, a courier ninja entered the room. He presented a scroll to Danzu saying, From the Fire Lord, before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Danzu looked at the seal. It was from the Fire Lord, all right. He broke it and began to read its contents. Hayashi and Asana were reading over his shoulder, and all three were shocked as to what the scroll's contents contained. In essence, it was Konoha's death certificate. Notice of liquidation by order of the Lord of Fire Country. The village of Konohagakure no Sato is hereby stripped of hidden village status. All honors and benefits of Konohagakure no Sato are hereby revoked. This notice has been relayed to Kumo, IWA, Suna and Mist. All military aid is hereby ceased and Konohagakure is ordered to repay the military aid given for the last 6 months to the Fire Lord. All bounties and placements in the Konohagakure bingo book are now invalid. All shinobi clans are stripped of clan status, and are ordered to surrender half of their clan's finances to Fire Country. All ninja are stripped of their ranks of genin, chunin and jounin and are declared civilians. Accountants from the Fire Capital will arrive by the end of the week in order to audit the village and to seize any assets necessary for the good of Fire Country. So ordered by the Lord of the Land of Fire. Oh God, we're ruined! Kohara lamented as she grasped her chest. We're finished, she managed to gasp out before keeling over. A medic ninja who had stayed in Konoha rushed over to the frail old woman and checked for a pulse. There was none. Kohara Udatane was dead from a heart attack, unable to face the fact that Konoha was no longer a shinobi village. She turned to Danzu, Hayashi and Asana. She's dead, the medic said. Hayashi sank back into his seat. Ever since the founding of Konoha, the Hyuga was one of the main noble clans. Now, the Fire Daimyo had stripped them of that honor and status. He was very, very angry. Word had spread throughout Konohagakure no Sato about the Fire Daimyo's judgment. Overnight, the Leaf Village had gone from being a shinobi village to just a plain village. Chunin and Jounin were stripped of their ninja ranks and reduced to civilians. Some even committed suicide or fled the disgraced village, seeing as how Konoha's bingo book was now useless. Upon hearing the news that Konoha was no longer a shinobi village, Hanmura had committed suicide. As expected, the audit team had arrived in Konoha the following day. Faced with spending 20 years in prison, the remaining shinobi clans surrendered half of their wealth. That did not mean that the Konoha Mercantile Guild had come out of this unscathed either. Most of Asana Haruno's assets were liquidated, and upon discovering that she had a hand in the corruption that festered around the leaf, she was ordered to surrender 75% of her assets. Asana was all but furious. The Mercantile Guild's lifeblood was that of being a shinobi village. With that gone, the Konoha Mercantile Guild was finished. Even more insulting was that the Flame Village's Hokage had signed a trade agreement with the Pekora merchant house. The trade agreement, as she found out, made the Pekora merchant house the main guild in the village. And the village got much needed products much cheaper than what Asana had originally sold them for. The Haruno family had ran the guild since the village's founding, and now, with Konoha no longer a ninja village, the Konoha Mercantile Guild, as Asana knew, was finished. When Danzu personally visited the Fire Daimyo demanding an explanation, the Daimyo gave him the reason why. Konoha had become too corrupt, and the Fire Lord had been working on a brand new village to replace Konoha. Tachigakure no Sato, or Fire Village. Danzu then found himself stripped of his title of Hokage, where it was later bestowed upon the new Fire Shadow of Fire Village. Now, Danzu was just a nobody from a village that had all but dug its own grave. The root commander was all but furious. He had spent decades in loyal service to the Leaf, only to have it ripped out from underneath him. So what idea some people had gotten hurt or were in his way? What he had done was all for Konoha. Upon returning to Konoha, he had sent his entire Route ANBU to his underground headquarters. Then, he made long-term plans. Plans which include the destruction of the upstart ninja village and the assassination of the Fire Lord. Once those two were out the way, he would declare war on the one person who was the bane of his existence. Naruto Uzumaki. All roads led to him. Konoha's downfall had begun with him. Following orchestrating his banishment, he had resurfaced as the most powerful man on the Western continent. As Danzu watched as his world crumbled all around him, he made a solemn vow. That vow was to wipe the Demon Emperor from this plane of existence. Chapter 14. 7 The Final Victory. Imperial Complex, Kimen City, 3 weeks after Konoha's liquidation. It was early in the morning and the Empress consort of the unified West was awake. Hinata Namikaze was lying on her side, her head propped up in her hand as she watched her husband sleep. The former Hyuga heiress was dressed in one of her husband's old white shirts which she used as a nightgown, the shirt buttoned halfway revealing a generous amount of cleavage, and ending several inches above her knees. Her husband was naked from the waist up, on his back, still asleep. In the 2 years they had been married, they had gone through some serious trials and tribulations, both in their personal and private lives. They had their arguments, and even in some cases, had to put the United West's best interests over their own. But unlike Konoha, Naruto and Hinata held the reins of power. The most recent argument they had was over the Konoha refugees, mainly the branch Hyuga. Hinata had remained silent during the meeting with the deposed clans, but seeing Niji after 2 years, she almost lost her head. Then her husband had told him that he would remove the seals should the Hyuga prove their worth. Hinata wanted nothing to do with her former clan, especially the branch clan, given how they had treated her when she was subjected to the caged bird seal. Her original intention was to leave it on their heads as to show them who the boss was, but Naruto said something to her that made her reconsider. "You do that, Hinata, you're no better than him." Hinata relented, knowing full well that he was talking about her father. That was the one thing she feared the most, becoming like him, cold and emotionless. That was something that Naruto had remedied almost immediately. "You're nothing like him, Hinata," he had told her. "You are better than him. That has already been proven in your deeds and your actions here as Empress and as my wife." Hinata knew that he was right. She felt ashamed as to how she had thought in regards to her former clan members. Given the choice of fleeing an oppressive clan and regime, she would have left with them as well. But she sensed an ulterior motive in Niji leading the cadet branch to the imperial capital. But even she had to admit that Naruto made the right choice in keeping the clans here for their probationary period, both to keep a close watch on them and to see if they were really worthy of redemption. "Something on your mind, Hinata?" Naruto asked, eyes closed. "How long were you awake?" was the question. "A while," came the reply. The Emperor opened his eyes and was soon mimicking Hinata's position on the bed. "So what's bothering you?" "Just thinking about several things," she replied. "You have any regrets? About not making Hokage?" "Some," he admitted. "I wanted to prove to Konoha that even the dead last can be Hokage. But after I was banished, I had to face some hard truths. Konoha would never accept me as Hokage, even if they knew who my father was. So I guess the whole banishment was a blessing in disguise. It pretty much forced me to grow up. But now I have no regrets. And what about me? I'm still pissed that I chased after the Banshee instead of courting you. I would have done it in secret as well. I can almost imagine Hayashi's expression if he found out that I was Minato's kid. Almost made me wish I was there when Shikamaru and the others told the council who I was. Hinata smiled. She could almost see the look on the council's face when they found out that the so-called QB brat was the most powerful man in the unified West. But despite how things had went down, I have no regrets. Naruto continued. Sure, we have our arguments and fights like any other couple. In some cases, you are right, and in others, I'm the one who's right. But in the end, we're still together. What about you? Hinata scooted over closer. If I wasn't as shy and as confident as I was now, I would have done more than just stalked you during our days as genin. But now, despite everything, I'm happy. While they kissed, Hinata's mind raced back to the previous day, where she had gone for a routine physical down at the hospital in the imperial capital. Even the most powerful woman in the unified West needed to make sure that she was in prime fighting form. Ino had done Hinata's blood work, since Tsunade still gets squeamish at the sight of blood. She had been ill for the past several mornings and her period was late, but this had all but verified her suspicions. She was pregnant. Pregnant with Naruto's child. Naruto has an heir to the throne. Well, now would be as a perfect time as any to tell him. You look better, Naruto whispered as one hand rubbed the small of her back. So what did Granny have to say? Hinata bit her bottom lip. You're going to be a daddy, Naruto. Naruto blinked. Then his eyes went wide. Excuse me, what? I'm pregnant. Town of Konoha, Fire Country, 1 year after its liquidation. 1 year had passed since Konoha's termination as a ninja village. Since then, the disgraced leaf was a shadow of its former glory. Home to over 100 clans, it now only had 3, one of which was the Hyuga. Following the liquidation of the Konoha Mercantile Guild, Asana had fallen into madness upon losing her fortune. Upon her suicide by cyanide pill, Danzu had initiated Sakura Haruno into the root Anbu and seized what remained of her fortune. For the past 3 years Danzu had plotted and prepared. His root Anbu now consisted of all remaining ninja who were stripped of their titles. Over 400 ninja who remained behind when Tsunade led the Konoha Exodus, which Danzu had initiated into his root Anbu. Add 200 remnants from what used to be the sound and numerous missing ninja, and his numbers swelled to over 500. Speaking of Danzu, the aforementioned Warhawk was in his underground root headquarters. Flanked by Sai and a second root ninja, the old man strode down the hall with a purpose. After over a year of planning, he was preparing to destroy Tachigakure with his forces. The last member that he was planning to release from his private prison cell. This man has been here for the past 9 years, having been captured when he became a missing ninja, having originally defected to Orochimaru but was captured shortly thereafter when his ex-lover betrayed him. 2 more root Anbu guarded the cell door. Danzu nodded and one of them unlocked the door and opened it. Inside, seated on the cot, with a special variant of the curse seal on his forearm, and having gained several pounds of muscle on his frame, was a white-haired man. So, the big man himself decided to come and visit little old me? The imprisoned man began. To what I owe the honor of your visit, Shimura. Last time I checked, you were no longer the Hokage and this pathetic village was no longer a shinobi village. Be careful who you insult, Mizuki. Otherwise, you will not see the light of day, Danzu warned. I could have you executed if I did not have a use for you. This caught the disgraced ninja's attention. Color me intrigued. Go on. It will take some time, but soon, I will have over 1,000 ninja ready to destroy the flame, and to kill the Fire Lord. Once the Flame Village is destroyed and its remaining ninja join my ranks, I will declare war on the unified West. I will wipe out Spring Country and assimilate their shinobi forces. Then I will do the same to Mist. Once I finish off Suna and their demon of Akazakage, I will invade the United West and destroy their demon emperor and anyone who gets in my way. So you plan on making war with that runt? What's in it for me? Mizuki asked. The head of Naruto Uzumaki, the emperor himself once we invade the unified West, Danzu replied. Once he is dead and any offspring he had with that whore of a Hyuga, the world will be under the banner of the leaf. I will usher in a new golden age. I will succeed in making Konoha the strongest of the villages. Now that caught Mizuki's attention. He had a bone to pick with him ever since the failed attempt to steal the Forbidden Scroll. Those words were music to his ears. Okay. I'm listening. Hinata's diary entry 1. 2 long years. 2 years had passed since Konoha was stripped of their hidden village status. Since then, life has moved on here in the West. Naruto and I had celebrated our 4th wedding anniversary, as well as the birthday of our child. Wait a sec. I should start from the beginning. After the destruction of the Otokumo Iwa alliance, the surviving members of the Lightning Daimyo's family returned with a small army and purged the remaining traitorous ninja from their ranks, and re-established their rule in Lightning Country. It was once we received word of Konoha's liquidation from the Fire Daimyo that I dropped the bomb on Naruto. I had gone for my routine physical, and Tsunade, having been appointed as our private physician, had sent Ino to give me the news. I was pregnant. Naruto was ecstatic. It was almost as if he was a Konoha genin once again. He even leapt to the roof of the Imperial Palace and screamed the news to the capital. The guards A and Kitami looked on, amused at my husband's antics. Then we broke the news of my pregnancy at the meeting of the Imperial Council. The council was shocked, to say the least. The Namikaze dynasty finally had an heir to the throne. Then a literal fist fight had broken out following the declaration, over who would be the godparents of our child, until Naruto called for it to stop and announced that the godmother was Yuki, the Spring Daimyo having long since called dibs on being the godmother. Then a second fight broke out over who was to be the godparents of our second child. Honestly, Haim, they aren't usually like this, Naruto whispered to me. I just stood there, shaking my head. As it turns out, I was not alone in my pregnancy. While we were going through the files of the Konoha ninja and working out their assignments, Naruto found a marriage certificate with Niji and Tenten's names on it, as well as a blood test, confirming Tenten's pregnancy. Now I see why Niji decided to come here along with the rest of the branch clan. He wanted a better life for his child, a bird free from its cage. Tenten was about 5 weeks along, meaning that she would have her child before mine. It was also because of this, I also reconciled with Niji. As expected, her son was born a month before mine. Niji named him after his father, Hizashi. Then our child was born. I think I shattered my poor husband's hand when I squeezed it too tight. Our firstborn was a son. We named him after Naruto's father, Minato Uzumaki Namikaze. The unified West, from the Lodja Mountains to the Tears Point, rejoiced in celebration. Yuki was giddy with delight, as she now had a godson to spoil. Following our son's birth, Naruto stayed in the capital for the first 3 months. The Jinchuriki had received word of Minato's birth and had come to pay their respects. Even Rashi and Yudakata, who made his home in the southern region, came to visit. I can see it now, Naruto said to me as Yujito cradled Minato while Rashi and Han looked on in delight. 6 Jinchuriki, 5 uncles and 1 aunt. That's not counting Yuki, Kitami and the council. He is going to be spoiled rotten. Guess it's up to us to make sure he's raised right, I replied. After all, he is the heir. When Minato was 4.5 months old, the probation period was over for the Konoha refugees. Once the probation period was over, Naruto and I had looked over their files and checked on their exploits. After talking it over, we decided to grant the Konoha family's clan status and the Chunin and Jounin citizenship. For Niji and the cadet branch of the Hyuga, Naruto was true to his word. Not only did he granted the Hyuga clan status with Niji as the clan head, but he also stripped them both of the cadet branch label and of the caged bird seal. With the downfall of the Hyuga clan back in Konoha, Niji is now head of the new Hyuga clan here in Kimin. Aside from that, Naruto had also made peace with his former sensei, Kakashi. I always thought that both him and Anko would hook up. Instead, she is seeing Zabuza. Not that Hataki is alone. His girlfriend, a civilian member of the Pecora merchant house, just so happens to be a fan of Jiraiya's Ika series. Who knew? Kimin City, during the Unification Festival. It was a known fact that if you were in the United West during the week-long Unification Festival, then you were in for one hell of a party. Such as the one in the Imperial Capital. At the end of the Unification Week, a party in the market square would take place. Everyone was invited. Even the clans and the Emperor himself would attend along with his wife. Temari was nice enough to give the Suna garrison time off to attend. Even Gaara, who was visiting the Imperial Capital on an inspection of the Suna consulate, attended. He was not alone, as he came with a companion, a Suna Jounin named Matsuri. Of course, aside from the incident in which Gaara tried to use the sand waterfall funeral on Shikamaru when he caught him in Temari's bed, Temari had stopped him from crushing Shikamaru. Thankfully, things were pretty much routine in the unified West. Several of the elder Western Hyuga members were babysitting baby Minato, baby Hizashi and several other Hyuga newborns as their parents enjoyed themselves. Maru Sarutobi was chatting with a local girl, a ninja who worked as one of the guards at the Imperial Complex. Zabuza and Ibiki were in the middle of an arm wrestling competition. Yuki Fujikaze, now pregnant with her first child, and her husband/bodyguard, a special jounin from Spring Village who she had met on the set of her last film, made an appearance. All in all, everyone was having a blast. Naruto and Hinata Namikaze had finally gotten to several chairs and sat down, having danced most of the night away, laughing, acting like a normal couple rather than the leaders of the unified West. Have I ever told you the story about the first anniversary festival when Zabuza got drunk and tried to hit on Sana? Naruto asked. The one where Sunsure chased after him with his family sword screaming bloody murder? About a dozen times, Hinata replied. Have I ever told you that I'm pregnant? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Once, he replied. Hinata grinned and held up 2 fingers. Better make that twice, love. It then dawned on what Naruto was saying. Hinata was pregnant. Again. Naruto's journal entry 1, I'm a father. Again. This time, it's a girl. Hinata and I named her Mocha Kushina Namikaze. Come to think about it, Yuki's son was born several days after our son, the Spring Demio, having married a ninja from Spring Village while he was working as her bodyguard. We joke that her son and our daughter could marry once they get older. While Minato becomes the emperor, Mocha would be the next Spring Demio. Wishful thinking. As expected, when we announced Hinata's second pregnancy following the Unification Festival, another fight had broken out between the Imperial Council over the rights of being the kids' godparents. You think that you could at least show some sort of maturity over something like this? Sigh. Once Hinata was released from the hospital, we decided that 2 children would be more than enough. Good thing that Ino had started Hinata on some birth control. Minato will be the heir to my throne, and Yuki's been talking about a marriage agreement between her son and Mocha. Hinata and I talked about it, and we came to a conclusion. When the kids grow older, we'll let them decide. Entry 2, Minato's 3 years old today. I swear, that kid grows like a weed. Right now, Mocha is with her godparents. Hinata had convinced me to let Asuma and Kurenai Sarutobi act as her godmother, while I chose Maru Sarutobi, Moegi and Udan as her uncles and aunt, respectively. But that's not the most important thing that I'm writing about, surprisingly. I've been getting more and more reports from Demio to do about a well-organized group of bandits originating from the Lodge region. Han has his hands tied with a second squad of highwaymen, so I sent Jiraiya and Tsunade to bust some heads and take down the bandits. When they returned from their mission several days later, I was in for a shock. I know for a fact that both Granny and Pervy Sage are in their 60s, but now, they look 30 years younger. It wasn't a henge either, as Hinata had verified it. It was at that moment, they both gave me the story. They had tracked down the highwaymen to their mountain stronghold and proceeded to wreak shop on the muscle. Once the bandits were all dead, they found a bottle of what they thought was sake, along with his journals. Deciding to celebrate on a job well done, they both split the fake sake. It was when they were halfway back with the scrolls containing the stolen goods and money, that they finally read the journal. Aside the fact that the bandits were a sleeper cell of Oda remnants, the sake they thought they had drunk was in fact something that they had been working on in collaboration with the Jashin cult that I had eradicated in my unification war, and de-aging elixir for Rokubunji Oda. Come to think about it, he was about Danzu's age when Yujito and I killed him. The elixir was the only one, as the ingredients and how to make the elixir was left to his memory, meaning that the know-how to make the elixir died with him when Tsunade knocked his head off. Aged 30 years, back in their prime when they were once teammates with the snake. God help us all as to what kind of mayhem those two can cause. Entry 3. I was right about there being other Uzumaki other than myself and Yahiko. It was shortly after Minato's birthday that they started to come into the city. By the end of the week, over 200 members of the Uzumaki clan were in Kimin City. Refugees that had scattered following the war which had all but leveled Whirlpool Village. With Yahiko as clan head, but answering to me, of course, I allowed them to establish a new village in the unified West, with Yahiko himself as the head of the village. Of course, that meant that both him and Yahiko would have to step down as members of the elite guard. They would still be on as reserve members, but anyone who is an active member has to reside in Kimin City. Where Yahiko was planning to resurrect Whirlpool was in the southernmost part of the northern region. Conan loved the southern part of the country, and Yahiko decided that moving south would be good for the clan. I gave them my blessings and allowed them to leave the guards. Of course, that meant that I had to fill in 2 spaces, now that Yahiko and Conan are gone. At Hinata's suggestion, she nominated Niji Hyuga and Sasuke Uchiha for the job. I had my concerns, but in the end, I decided to allow them to join up. If Sasuke is sincere about him seeking redemption, then serving as part of my guard will give him the chance he deserves. If he tries to stab me in the back, then the Uchiha line will be extinct. Entry 4. Jiraiya's spy network in the east has sent in a communique in regards to the former Leaf Village. It's clear that Danzu is planning something big. Remnants of Orochimaru's sound forces that had narrowly avoided being killed when the Otokumo Iwa alliance had self-destructed Ave resurfaced, and missing ninja originally in the Konoha bingo book have been seen in and around Konoha. You think that the Warhawk would get the hint and just lie down and die. But after my spies in Konoha, acting as monks on a journey to the reconstructed fire temple, managed to get some more information from several documents and interrogating a suspicious route ANBU that was trailing them, were my concerns verified. After all, no one would suspect a holy man from a backwoods country on a pilgrimage of being a spy. Danzu is planning on initiating a fourth shinobi war. First, by invading neighboring countries and forcibly adding conquered ninja to their ranks, until they are large enough to launch an invasion of the unified West. If that happens, there will be a major loss of life, mostly from my end. This, I cannot allow. I thought that once Konoha was stripped of its hidden village status, that the village would more than likely self-destruct. Guess I was wrong this time. Danzu will not stop until I am gone. So now, I must prepare for Konoha's destruction, and my ultimate victory. Kumo and Iwa have some beef with Danzu back when he was an active ninja. So I will use that to my advantage. I will be heading back east for an inspection tour of the Pekora houses, so I will have a meeting with the leaders of Kumo, Iwa, and their respective daimyos. If I want to go to war against Danzu, then it will benefit me to have some insurance. Trading outpost, near the lightning border. To call it a trading outpost would be an understatement. It was, in fact, a thriving town in neutral territory, the unified West, and the daimyos of the countries which housed the most powerful of the shinobi villages had signed a non-aggression pact, which allowed the outpost to conduct its business unmolested. It was also one of the few places in which ninja from rival villages could visit and a bloodbath would not ensue. The trading organizations which served the East and the United West Pekora Merchant House were the chief members of the trading consortium. At the moment, Emperor and Namikaze of the United West, along with the Tsuchikage of Iwa, Kuratsuchi and the new Reikage, a veteran by the name of Rokuro Kinoshita. Kinoshita was by far the oldest of the rulers, and Naruto remembered him as the one who had been sent to Suna when Kumo demanded his wife. The designated rulers were inside a meeting room, while their bodyguards waited outside. Naruto sat at the head of the table, while the Lightning and Kumo envoys sat on the right side of the table. The Earth and Iwa envoys sat on his left. Here we are, Naruto began, the unified West. Earth and Iwa. Lightning and Kumo. I wouldn't have asked you four to come here if it wasn't important. So let's get to the brass tacks and dispense with the bull. Kinoshita barked. He did not forget the disrespect that this young upstart had given to him when he and his envoy had came to him back in Suna, but he did respect the son of Minato Namikaze for being the one who destroyed the Akatsuki, a feat that not even he himself could have done in his prime. But the Lightning Daimyo had made it clear that Naruto's wife was off limits. If Naruto could destroy the Akatsuki, then he could just as easily do the same with them. As you wish, Naruto replied. I am here because we each have a problem, Konoha. Kinoshita scoffed. Your former village? The Fire Lord stripped it of its hidden village status. Why should we be worried about them? Maybe to you, but not to the stone. Every time their root shows up, Kumo fights them back to their borders. Konoha's power may have been stripped, but that does not make them any less dangerous. Naruto replied as he steepled his hands. Even a cornered animal is most dangerous because it has nothing else to lose. That very much is true, Kuratsuchi said. We've also had skirmishes with Shimura's root ANBU on our border for the past year and a half. You are lucky that you have not been affected. Oh, but I have, Naruto replied. In the past 3 months, I had to provide armed escorts to the Pekora caravans traveling through Fire Country. I had to order the merchants to give them a wide berth in the area surrounding Konoha. Jiraiya's spy network has been reporting that Oto remnants, as well as a sizable number of missing ninja from several villages, including those from Kumo and Iwa, are gathering in Konoha. So Shimura is gathering an army under the Fire Lord's nose. The Lightning Daimyo said, concerned. It was her fire counterpart which had offered her and her family asylum when her husband was murdered by the Oto-backed regime. For that act of kindness from the Fire Lord, she and her family would be eternally grateful. Does this mean that Konoha is planning for war? Naruto nodded. Yes. I fear that with Konoha losing its status as a shinobi village, Danzu has completely lost it. But he wasn't all there to begin with. He retrieved several documents from a scroll and passed them to the two sides. My allies in Suna were chasing down a missing nin when they came across a hidden base in what used to be Sound Country. I just received those documents shortly before leaving my home for here. Turns out that Orochimaru and Danzu were working together. The plan was for Danzu to use his root A and BU to assassinate both the Godame Hokage and the Shinobi Council, then sue for peace with Orochimaru. Once the alliance between Orochimaru and Danzu was cemented, they would then assassinate the Kages of Stone and Lightning and combine their forces into one massive army. They were both planning on starting another shinobi war, Kinoshita said as he read the incriminating documents. Unknown to the two ninjas and the daimyos, the documents were doctored fakes. Kitami herself had designed them using her own genjutsu to make them look like correspondence between the snake and the warhawk, making it look like the real thing. The blood and the motive, here in writing. If this was signed in snake venom, I would not be surprised. Naruto nodded. First by invading Wave, then Water Country and subjugating its ninja forces. The same thing would follow in Suna, Waterfall, until they would turn their sights to the unified West. My home. Kuratsuchi set the documents on the table. What are you proposing? She asked. Danzu is planning to finish what Orochimaru has started. Naruto continued. If he wages war here, he will destabilize the region. Not only will your respective countries and shinobi villages will be threatened, but once his forces are big enough, he will invade the unified West, and destabilize the region that I've worked so hard to bring peace to. What I'm proposing is simple. We invade and crush Konoha once and for all. We destroy Shimura and his army and burn the village to the ground. An enticing offer, Kinoshita said. But what do we benefit in teaming up with you? Last time I checked, the Hyuga are still in Konoha. Naruto replied. All of them main branch. Including Hanabi Hyuga. Kinoshita immediately caught on as to what Naruto was suggesting. After whispering an exchange with the Lightning Daimyo, Kinoshita came to a decision. Kumogakyu no Sato will commit but only if we can obtain the Baikogen. So long as it's not my wife or the Western Hyuga, I don't care what you do. Are we in agreement? Kinoshita nodded. The daimyo of Lightning Country agrees to your terms. You have Kumogakyu no Sato in your corner. And what does IWA get in return in exchange for this triple alliance? Kuratsuchi asked. The heads of all of the missing ninja will bring in a nice bounty for IWA, Naruto said. All of the missing ninja are A rank and higher, and will earn IWA some serious coin. This time around, a two-person conference was between the Tsuchikage and the Earth Daimyo. After a moment, they came to an agreement. Okay, Lord Namikaze. You got yourself a deal. But what do you get out of this? Kinoshita asked. You're handing over the Hyuga to us and the missing nin to IWA on silver platters. How do we know that you won't try the same thing that Danzu is planning on doing? You have a military alliance with Suna, and we have seen a fraction of the United West's strength when you along with Gaara crushed the Akatsuki. You can just as easily roll over the elemental countries and absorb them into your empire. If I was a bloodthirsty tyrant, I would have done it already, Naruto replied. But I have no intention of invading the East. Gaara and Suna have a military and trading alliance with the unified West, not to mention that Gaara is a close friend of mine from when I was a genin. The people of Wave showed kindness to me. Daimyo Fujikaze is the godmother to my eldest son, and Zabuza still has connections in Mist. I am very content with what I have back west. To answer your question about what do I get out of it, the satisfaction of seeing Konoha burned to the ground. Payback for 12 years' worth of hell. The daimyos of Earth and Lightning, as well as the two Kages knew of Naruto's background as the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. It was a miracle in itself that Naruto had not unleashed hell upon the leaf for all of the trauma they had put him through. If anything, they respected Naruto a lot more, not because that he was a wise ruler, but the fact that they were still alive because he showed no interest of invading. Naruto's Journal Entry 5. With the forces of Stone and Lightning in my corner, I had to sell my idea to the Fire Daimyo. He was easy to convince, once I laid out all of my evidence of Danzu's motives. He agreed that Konoha was a threat and gave me the authorization to invade and destroy Konoha, as well as the authorization for Danzu's termination. Returning to Kimen City by way of the Demon's Gate, I called for a meeting of the council and told them of my intentions. They all agreed that Danzu was a threat and that he had to be eliminated. So I activated the Demon Brigade and the Hellcats, as well as a sizable number of ninja and samurai to even the playing field. I even brought in Konan and Yahiko for the fun. Even Kakashi, Rock Lee, Mato Gai, Jiraiya and Tsunade volunteered. Kitami also decided to come, since I promised her that she could burn the village to the ground. Hinata wanted to come, but I refused. She may be the Empress, but she was also a mother. I could not let our children grow up as orphans. Grudgingly, Hinata had agreed to remain behind. I used the Demon's Gate to transport myself, the elite guards, Kitami, the Demon Unit and the Hellcats to the trading post, and waited for Kumo and IWA to show up. Kumo, since they were the closest, arrived shortly after I did, while IWA arrived 2 days later. Our combined forces were about 600 to Danzu's 1500 ninja. But as always, I have a plan. Gotta close out now. It's time. Entry 6. The battle is over. Konohagakure is in our hands. The majority of the Root Anbu have been decimated. Only a small pocket of resistance remains as Zabuza and Yujito invade the underground headquarters where Danzu is holed up. One advantage I have over Danzu is despite being decades younger, I have experience in fighting wars. Despite our triple alliance, we were still outnumbered 3-1. But I quickly negated those numbers with the use of exploding clones, which decimated the majority of Danzu's forces. Then I used another batch of exploding clones to destroy the gates, and we came charging in. I made my intentions clear as I saw Danzu with his lapdog sigh. Danzu! The QB brat has returned. I bring the destruction of Konoha. With those words, the invasion of Konoha has begun. The Root ANBU were the major threat, as was Mizuki. Danzu sent him after me, along with Sakura. I had activated the Fox Eye and used it to cut down the ANBU with Raisin Shurikens and exploding Kagebushins. With Kakashi and Sasuke backing me up, we unleashed hell until we caught up with Mizuki and Sakura. I guess one can say that it was a reunion of sorts, Cells 7 back together again. Only this time, I was leading the assault with Hataki and the Uchiha backing me up, and Sakura, now a member of Root, and Mizuki leading the defense of Konoha. I sent Sasuke and Hataki to catch up with the Banshee, while I dealt with Mizuki. This white-haired freak was responsible for several murders of Pekora merchants and Imperial civilians who were on their way to Wave and Spring. Regrettably, one of those murders was that of Maki Asahina. It was time for Mizuki to answer for his crimes. The battle had taken place in Training Ground Number 44, the Forest of Death. As expected, the hungry critters roamed the area, watching as our battle had taken place. Mizuki was a master of jutsu that kept me on my toes, as well as having a modified curse seal which transformed him into a bipedal, tiger-like form, giving him a boost in strength and agility. The battle between myself and Mizuki raged from the Forest of Death, the animals not daring to interfere, as they wanted to see which one of us will fall before moving in. I knew that Mizuki would not fall for the same trick twice when I kicked his ass the first time. As I've said before, I still live up to the title of being unpredictable, and that I still have some tricks of my own that I have not revealed. Mizuki was complacent in his superiority, thinking that he had the upper hand. But after I used the Hiroshin to get behind him, I flung 2 Raisin Shuriken at him. Mizuki turned around, assuming that the attacks did nothing to harm him, until I told him those 4 magic words. "You are already dead." At that, Mizuki fell to the ground in several bloody pieces. I turned from the sight and left the area, just as the oversized critters moved in for the feast. Turns out that there was a witness in that battle. Sakura had given Kakashi and Sasuke the slip and was preparing to attack me from behind with her katana. That was when I heard the familiar sound of birds chirping, followed by Sakura's scream. I spun around, and saw Sasuke pulling his hand back, having executed the Chidori on Sakura. The assassination jutsu had obliterated her lung and damaged her heart. "I'm sorry it had to be this way, Sakura," Sasuke had said with genuine regret as Sakura turned to face him. I could pretty much bet that she was looking at her one-time crush with a combination of betrayal and disbelief before falling over. I learned that Sakura had injured Kakashi, and that he was out of the fight. Sasuke had barely managed to stop Sakura from getting the jump on me. Looks like the Uchiha was sincere about his redemption after all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Aside from Kakashi, Asuma Sarutobi and Mato Gai was also out of action, due to injury. But they would both survive. Asuma, however, would not be an active ninja again, due to the severity of his own injuries. Tragically, the Raikage, Rokuro Kinoshita, was killed in action, as were ninja from my forces, IWA and Kumo. With the majority of the root dead and the Oto Reminats crushed, the surviving missing ninja decided that it would be best that they surrender. IWA got what they wanted, the remaining missing ninja were restrained and taken out of Konoha. With their objective complete, IWA withdrew from the field. As for Kumo, something unexpected. Hayashi Hyuga and the Hyuga Council were found slaughtered inside the Hyuga compound. As it turned out, Hanabi was against her father's wishes to continue the fight when it became evident that Konoha was finished, which led to Hanabi seizing control of the Hyuga from her crippled father and the council. Once she had killed Hayashi and the elders, the other main branch Hyuga had no problem in seeing that Hanabi was in charge. When the Kumo ninja invaded the Hyuga compound, they were surprised to see that Hanabi was now clan head. Seeing that fighting off Kumo would be futile, Hanabi had decided to surrender the Hyuga to Kumo. For the duration of the invasion, the Hyuga would be under heavy guard. Once the battle was over, the majority of them were executed, and Hanabi and 10 Hyuga, most of them female, were taken back to Kumo. With the remaining Hyuga in their possession, Kumo returned home. As for myself, I received word from Haku. Danzu has been captured, the last of his root now dead. With Danzu in custody, the invasion is officially over. Since this town is doomed anyway, I ordered it to be stripped of any useful items from cash to jutsu, of which plenty was left behind. The Konoha hospital was transformed into a triage center as Tsunade, Ino, Shizen and the Yamada clan treated the injured. Once the injured were safely back home, I sent the Imperial forces back to Kimin, leaving only myself, Zabuza, Yujito, Kitami, Jiraiya and Tsunade. Once the village was cleared of people, I moved out to a hillside area about 10 miles out, where I had an excellent view of Konoha. I want Danzu to see the destruction of his beloved village before I execute him for crimes against the unified West. Outskirts of Konoha, Fire Country, night. Kitami, Zabuza and Yujito emerged from the village, bloodied and bruised, but alive. The Root ANBU had made their final stand inside the underground headquarters, but they were no match for the battle-hardened Imperial forces, Sai being the last to fall. With them, his Sharingan ripped from his skull and his arm containing the 10 Sharingan ripped from his body, the wound cauterized so that he would not bleed to death, was Danzu Shimura. Naruto had set up a forward operations base 10 miles out from Konoha. The temporary base was set upon a hill with an excellent view of the village. Minutes later, the last surviving member of Konoha was at Naruto's feet. The victorious Emperor looked down on his defeated foe, his expression grim. "You couldn't just leave me in peace, Shimura," Naruto snapped. "You tried to initiate a shinobi war out of pure spite. Now look at you. Your army is destroyed. Kumo has the Hyuga and IWA has your missing ninja. My forces have wiped out what remained of your root. You are the last one." In the face of his demise, Danzu was defiant. "You little brat. You don't deserve to be the Emperor of the West. That title should have been mine. Your armies should have been mine. I would have conquered the East and brought it under the control of the Leaf." That earned him a kick to the head from Naruto, causing the crippled Warhawk to fall over. "I was hoping that you would be begging for your miserable life," the Emperor replied as Zabuza hauled him upright. "You are the last one alive, Shimura. Don't think I've forgotten that you were the mastermind behind my banishment. All of this, from what had happened when I was kicked out to this very moment, it is your mess. Your responsibility. In trying to make Konoha stronger, you sealed its fate. I should have killed you myself when I had the chance." Danzu snarled. "Sachirobi should not have let you live." "Shame," Naruto replied. "Sarutobi respected you once upon a time. But you got arrogant, you tried to make me into a weapon. When Sarutobi blocked you, you had me banished. But life goes on. I will return home to Kimin City, where my wife and my children are waiting for me. You will not live to see the end of this day. In war, there are winners and losers. I'm cashing you out, Danzu. But the last thing you will see will be the Nine Tails destroying Konoha once and for all." Turning to Kitami, he simply said, "Do it." Giving Naruto a feral grin, Kitami vanished in a geyser of flame. Zabuza turned Danzu around to face Konoha, while Yujito tapped a pressure point on the back of his neck. The pressure point worked on his eye, keeping it open despite Danzu's feeble attempts to close it. Kitami then reappeared. Now in her fox form, which was bigger than the destroyed Hokage monument, Kitami began to finish what she had started over 2 decades ago, decimating all in her path. As the former shinobi village was awash in a sea of flames, Naruto, his elite guards, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Yujito and Zabuza watched as the Kyuubi no Kitsune let out a roar and with one massive swing of her tails, decimated what was the Hokage mountain. Danzu watched, unable to turn away. The defeated Warhawk could not help but to feel sadness as he watched the Kyuubi no Kitsune raise what was once the strongest of the shinobi villages. Then he heard Naruto whisper into his ear. By the way, I lied to Kumo and IWA to get them on my side by saying you worked with Orochimaru. Take that to your grave. Before Danzu could say, "What?" Naruto had moved out of the way and Zabuza stepped forward, oversized sword in one hand. With one swing, the last of Konoha's ninja was dead, his head liberated from his body. Leave Danzu's body here, Naruto ordered as Danzu's corpse fell over. Let the critters of the forest have him for dinner. Once Kitami returned to them in her human form, Konoha was in flames, its gates and village walls having been torn down by her tails, the mountain leveled and collapsed into a giant heap. The fires of Konoha were seen for miles, and would burn all night. Come morning, what used to be Konohagakure no Sato, once the strongest of the shinobi villages until its own arrogance proved to be its downfall, was a smoking crater. People would come to avoid the ruins, saying that they were cursed. Even the animals who used to live there had moved on to other parts of Fire Country. His job finished, Naruto summoned the Demon's Gate and in a flash, were back in Kimen City. He dismissed the guards, Kitami, Zabuza, Yujito and the 2 sages and returned to the Imperial Palace, where Hinata and their 2 children were waiting for him. With Konoha destroyed and Danzu finally dead, he could breathe a lot easier and look to the future. Chapter 15, Epilogue, Versions A and B. Excerpt from History of the Unified West. The Namikaze dynasty would continue to rule the unified West for many generations. Like the founder of the dynasty, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and his wife, Hinata Namikaze, the emperors and their wives governed the people with a fair and just hand, refusing to surrender to the vices that had claimed so many other rulers. The values passed on from parent to child, selflessness, compassion, honor, guided the Namikaze dynasty through countless trials, tragedies, and triumphs. Naruto Namikaze, banished from his original home, and have risen to prominence, first as a warlord then the ruler, would rule as emperor for 25 years alongside his wife before they decided to step down from their place as Emperor and Empress of the United West. Minato Namikaze and his wife, Makoto Namikaze, formerly Asuna Jounin, to take the throne as the second Emperor and Empress consort of the unified West. Like his father, Minato would show that he had been trained well. He would rule the unified West under a fair and just hand, being a lover of truth and justice. Despite not being in line for the throne, Moka Namikaze became the daimyo of Spring Country. A talented healer and fighter, Moka was named the 4th Fox Sage by her mother and Kitami Akashiya. Seeing as how she had a talent for acting and singing, Koki Kazuhana, known by her stage name of Yuki Fujikaze, had taken Moka under her tutelage. By the time her elder brother had ascended the throne, Moka Namikaze Kazuhana, having married Yuki's son Rajan Kazuhana, was not only an accomplished warrior, entertainer and healer, but she would go on to rule Spring Country as its daimyo. Rajan would command Spring Village as its kage. Naruto and Hinata Namikaze would become known as Father and Mother of the Empire, a title bestowed upon them in Naruto's 16th year as Emperor of the Unified West. It was also in this year that the Emperor and Empress consort would face their greatest challenge yet. An army of missing nin from the east, led by Hanabi Hyuga. During the Imperial Kumo Iwa invasion of Konohagakure, Hanabi Hyuga, who was the sister to the Empress consort, opted to surrender to Kumo, but not before assassinating her father, clan head Hayashi Hyuga and the Council of Elders. Hanabi had worked her way up the ranks by either seducing or assassinating the competition. Now, with an army of missing ninja under her command, she made her intentions clear. Her motives were based solely on revenge. During this time, the Emperor had allowed the Uzumaki clan that had been revived under his banner to return to Whirlpool Country to re-establish both the country and its shinobi village. Led by Godame Yuzukage Hiko Uzumaki, Whirlpool Country was under the jurisdiction of the unified West. Hanabi decided to target that while at the same time, attempt to kidnap Minato and Moka while the pair were attending a tournament in Tea Country. The kidnapping failed, and the Emperor and Empress consort personally intervened. The Imperial Defense Forces took to the field in Whirlpool Country. Hinata had slain her former sister, and the Imperial forces under the command of Naruto and Hinata Namikaze decimated the army of missing Nines. With the ascension of Hinata Namikaze, the exploits of his father and mother became legend. Naruto and Hinata Namikaze would go on to leave a series of instructions to their successors on how to rule. These instructions were mandatory reading for all heirs to the throne. What was said is now lost to history, but for all purposes, the advice was followed. The Namikaze dynasty would rule until the end of the shinobi age. No one knows the whereabouts of their descendants, but one thing is for certain. Their exploits will not be forgotten, as they are recorded in the annals of history. Their descendants have not died out, as they are still alive to this very day, unaware of the legacy that they contain. But as with all legends and tales, it is just waiting to be discovered. Epilogue, Version B. The Namikaze dynasty would rule until the end of the shinobi age. No one knows the whereabouts of their descendants, but one thing is for certain. Their exploits will not be forgotten, as they are recorded in the annals of history. The speaker was a woman in her late 20s, early 30s. Her audience was an archaeology class in Tokyo University. The woman was very voluptuous, her figure showing from her business suit and skirt combination, the pair of black heels on her feet. Short dark hair framed her face, the bangs covering one eye, a la Rosemary's MGS4 hairdo. Her uncovered lavender eye with pupils scanned the captivated audience. Their descendants have not died out, as they are still alive to this very day, unaware of the legacy that they contain. But as with all legends and tales, it is just waiting to be discovered, she said as she closed the book from which she was reading from. One of her students raised her hand. The professor acknowledged it with a nod. Yes, Miyabi? A freshman student asked her question. Professor Kajikawa, what happened to the refugees from Konoha? Did Emperor Namikaze make his peace with the Uchiha and Captain Hatake? The professor, one Mayumi Kajikawa, nodded. He did. He made his peace with the Uchiha shortly after the refugees arrived in Kimen City. Hatake was a bit harder due to his favoritism. But the emperor was not a cold man. Stubborn, but he could not deny their redemption. As for the others, they married, had children to continue their family line. Some of them died out, while others are like the Namikaze, still around to the present day. A second student raised her hand. Professor, how do you know so much about this subject? Kajikawa smiled. I've been into ancient history for as long as I can remember. It's a passion of mine. She raised the book, which was titled History of the Unified West. The book itself was authored by both herself and her husband, who was a famous writer and lecturer of literature. Most people could not agree if it was fact or fiction. But what they did agree on was that it was a very good read. The ninja system in both East and West could not escape the changing times, and ended up collapsing. Kajikawa continued. But the Namikaze dynasty continued to rule, as they too changed with the times. In the end, it was not an uprising of the people that had brought the Namikaze clan to ruin. So what was it? Miyabi asked. Nature, Kajikawa replied. Mother Nature herself. The Laja Mountains were always a volatile region, but in the reign of the last emperor, Naruto 12 Namikaze, the Laja Mountains erupted, which triggered a massive earthquake. Days later, the unified West was engulfed in a tsunami, the land sinking into the ocean. Kajikawa remembered that even all too well. Both her and her husband had assisted in the evacuation of the imperial capital, knowing well that the days of the unified West were numbered. Aside from that, they also pilfered the Namikaze vaults underneath the imperial palace using several storage scrolls to seal up the chests of gold, but leaving more than enough cash to their clan, so that they can rebuild once again. They also took family heirlooms, jutsu scrolls and weapons that had been collected over the years. The reason being? Mayumi Kajikawa was just an alias. One of many in her long life. Her birth name was Hinata Hyuga, now Hinata Namikaze. Before another student could ask a question, the bell rang, signaling the end of class. But more importantly, the end of the day. It was time to go home. As the students piled out of the classroom, Hinata sat down in a chair and took a moment to reflect. Her hand rubbed absently on the mark where Naruto had bit her on their wedding night. It was shortly thereafter that Kitami had taken both Naruto and Hinata to the side and explained the totality of the mark. As the both of you are mated, you will have fringe benefits, one of which is a long life. The Uzumaki were known for their long lifespans. When the both of you marked each other, that lifespan has increased 1,000-fold. Kitami. Last she heard, the Ninetales ran a curio shop in Hokkaido. They had not aged a day over 30, resorting to using henges to make themselves look older, or in some cases, relocate to a different area entirely. This was the 7th time that Naruto and Hinata were back in Japan. The last place they spent 30 years in was in Hong Kong, where their descendants from Mocha's bloodline resided. Minato's bloodline resided in Japan, and one of them were in Hinata's class. Of course, aside from Mocha and Minato, Naruto and Hinata had countless children over the years. Some of their lines still existed, while others were extinct. Their daughter Yumi was a student in elementary school, a recent addition to the Namikaze bloodline. Over the thousands of years, Naruto and Hinata had many occupations from assassin to daimyo to shogun to businessman. It was only recently that Naruto decided to write his memoirs, of which Hinata had been reading to the class. As for the other Jinchuriki, they were still alive as well. Utakata, they had left while he was in Hong Kong. Rashi and Han were in Okinawa, Yujito had settled in Seoul, Gaara made his home in the Mojave Desert, posing as an insane survivalist, B was somewhere in South America, and Fu made her home in England. Gathering her things and placing them into a shoulder bag, Hinata had decided that she had spent enough time walking down memory lane. Her husband was waiting for her. Tokyo University campus. He stood in the midst of the students as they walked past him, 6 feet tall, with undisciplined reddish hair, a la Chris RE5 hairdo, blue eyes, his muscular frame hidden underneath the black long coat and dark business suit. It was winter, and the Christmas holidays had just begun. The cold had never really bothered him, being a former Jinchuriki. He was known as Takeshi Kajikawa to most people. A respected professor of literature here at Todai, as well as an accomplished writer. But to a select few, he was Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Naruto didn't have to wait long for his wife to make her presence known. Bundled up in her own overcoat and scarf, shoulder bag slung over one shoulder, Hinata Namikaze approached her husband with a smile on her face. "Been waiting long, love?" "Nah. Just got here, Haim." "Ready?" he asked, extending his arm out. Hinata responded by slipping her arm through Naruto's own. The couple then walked off, until they were just another couple heading home for the holidays. Maybe one day, the Emperor will rise once again to lead, but now, he was just a family man ready to spend the holidays with his wife and daughter. The legacy of the Namikaze clan will continue,